Due to the fissures occurring around the world, there was no longer any place that was safe, so to save humanity, the Association of Ability Users became the global leader. Many families were formed to work with the association and they produced hunters, but some only desired power and fame. An old man shouts, asking what the motto of the divine sword family, the Beak family, is. Several young men respond by shouting that it is strength above all and obedience to orders above all. Elsewhere, our hero is lying on the ground, worried, and someone tells him that's why he's in that situation. A young man says he should be ashamed of himself, since he is part of the Beak family of the divine sword, but is still weaker than the trainees. He asks the MC if he knows the motto of the Beak family, and the boy replies that it is strength above all, obedience to orders above all. Smiling, the young man says the boy also understands what the motto means and shows an expulsion order from the Beak family. He must lose the veins of his arm and the aura of his heart. Then he concludes by saying that the patriarch approved his expulsion. Trash that has no value to the family should not remain there. Throwing the expulsion order, he says there were only 3 people who did not approve of his expulsion. Our hero clenches his fist in anger and starts talking about their father. Happily, the young man says the father, the patriarch he adored so much, personally approved that expulsion. The boy looks furious. And the other continues, saying he asked to deliver the expulsion form personally. He starts laughing like crazy and the MC becomes even more enraged. With a hand on his head, the young man comments that people like the boy shouldn't train with them. He's already 24 and barely reached rank 1 as a swordsman. Seriously, he says he reached that rank when he was only 14. Slapping his hand, he says they can begin. 2 men grab the boy's arms and he becomes desperate, asking what they are doing. Struggling, he screams for them to let him go. The young man tells him to stop moving to avoid accidents and that it's necessary to take back what the family gave him. Our hero is confused. Then it's explained that there are 2 conditions for expulsion: the removal of the veins he uses to wield the sword, and the burning of the heart's aura, something quite simple. The boy keeps struggling and tries to run screaming. Then he exclaims that they are damn bastards and that he did everything he could to improve his skills and honor the family. Even though they treated him like trash, even without any talent, he tried hard. Harder than anyone else. One of the men throws him to the ground. The other covers his mouth and his eyes fill with tears. With power in his hands, the man says they can't let outsiders make a scene. The boy screams. Preparing to strike the boy, he concludes by saying they are only doing what was ordered, so the boy shouldn't hate them so much. Then he hits the MC's chest and shouts that they will start with the aura. The heart begins to be struck. The boy spits blood. He lets out a loud scream that can be heard from far away. 1 year passes and the city is in flames. People scream for help. Several monsters are in the city annihilating the people. On the ground, bodies pile up. The monsters trample over them. Then they keep advancing on the desperate population. 1 year after being expelled from the Beak family of the divine sword, what our hero thought couldn't get worse kept getting more horrible. As he runs, he thinks that this might be considered the worst moment in his life. It was just another day as a loser in the alley, but a fissure larger than all appeared in the skies of Korea. A catastrophe that not even the Association of Ability Users could predict. Monsters invaded the entire city. Looking up, the boy screams that damn fissure is huge, and everyone around him screams and runs. He enters an alley and thinks it's better to flee before something happens to him. In the alley, he comes across several scattered cell phones, blood on the ground, and a horrible smell. The place is full of corpses. Outraged, he questions why the alley he chose ended up being full of bodies. Then he notices movement behind him. The boy gets scared. It's a giant ogre that is chasing our hero. Sweet and cold, he wonders how his special entity came out of that fissure. The monster prepares to attack. The boy jumps away to dodge the strike. Where the monster hit, there's a huge hole, and the boy thinks that must be the power of a giant ogre. Grabbing a pipe from the ground with his arm that has a huge scar, he wonders if he can survive until the association arrives. With difficulty, he lifts the pipe. Then he thinks that even if he tries to run, he will be caught quickly. He dodges another blow from the ogre. Without the veins in his arm and without his aura, he can't kill that creature. The only option left is to survive until the association arrives. He charges at the monster, but he is hit by surprise. The boy crashes into a wall that breaks from the impact. He wonders how the ogre is so fast. The creature begins to approach, and our hero reflects that he can't lose his life like that. He still wants to get revenge on the Beak family of the divine sword. Then he starts charging at the monster again. He jumps to strike and yells that he can't just go down like this. Before the ogre, something strange happens. He remembers the words of the man from the Beak family saying that useless trash didn't deserve to be there and that the patriarch himself expelled him. Something frightens our hero, and another phrase comes to mind, that useless, talentless trash like him has no place in the Beak family of the divine sword. The pipe he is holding falls from his hand. He falls to the ground, suddenly remembering the words of Beak Hojong when he was expelled from the family. The words used to say he had no place there. He lost strength in his hands and didn't know if it was because of the severed veins or the shame he felt. At the moment when the beast began to crush his skull, he had a wish in his mind. Even before, if he had just received a single chance, a system appears analyzing the target's compatibility, then connects hero Beak Woojin to the black stone sword. He receives the title of owner of the magic sword. Suddenly, Beak Woojin wakes up. He gets up startled, then becomes super scared and wonders if he shouldn't have died to the ogre. Woojin is frightened. He repeats with his hand on his head that he shouldn't have lost to that ogre. Then he questions whether this is a dream and says he doesn't understand what's happening. He is startled to notice that the wounds on his wrist have simply disappeared. Looking around, he notices that it's his rune, the Beak family. Besides that, he also feels the power in his veins and his aura restored. His phone beeps. It's an alarm announcing that it's time for training. The year is 2020. That means he went back 10 years into the past. He starts laughing nervously and says this isn't even funny. Since he's back with the Beak family of the Divine Sword, the ones who took everything from him, it was at that moment that he lost everything. Crying, he questions why this is happening. Wujin wonders how he came back there and comments that it feels too real to be a dream. Someone appears behind him and asks if the boy is crazy. He looks back. A man is there and asks if now the boy is looking at him. Approaching, he says that this time his master is a little inexperienced kid. The man says it doesn't matter who the boy is, the contract has already been established and they must introduce themselves. He introduces himself as Blackstone. Wujin gets scared and the man says he is the magic sword that brought down the human world. The man comments that he was sure no one was there just a moment ago. He gets scared about the magic sword and says he's never been involved in any kind of contract. He can't believe it's 2020. Confused, he says he thought he had already kicked the bucket and doesn't know what's going on. Blackstone says that normally people throw rocks, but Wujin is pretty calm. Smiling, the man says the boy's head seems fine, so they should continue the conversation. Their souls were connected because of the magic sword contract. Now Wujin has become its master and he is responsible for Wujin's growth. That is the status window. The boy looks confused and asks what the man is talking about. Blackstone repeats that he was contracted by the sword, and Wujin says that's not it. Thinking, Blackstone repeats that he's responsible for the boy's growth, but Wujin wants him to repeat what he said after that. Then he understands and repeats status window. Walking, Wujin comments that he must be dreaming. Confused, Blackstone asks what the boy is doing and if he understood what was said. Wujin says maybe these are pre-death flashbacks, but he doesn't remember any of this. The boy hides under the blanket and says this must be a setup by Beak Hojong, that he hired some random person to act and prank him, but the man says he isn't human. Blackstone says it's not like he didn't expect that kind of reaction, since all of this sounds absurd, but if he says status window, he'll understand everything. Seriously, Wujin asks what he's supposed to understand if he's been tricked by Beak Hojong again. Smiling, Blackstone asks about Hojong. Then he questions if it's him that Wujin is afraid of. The man asks if the one Wujin wants to make pay for his shame and wants to surpass is Beak Hojong, and if so, he can help him. Coming out from under the blanket, Wujin asks if that's really possible. Then Blackstone says that no one will be able to surpass him, that's why the contract was made. But there's one condition, the boy has to trust that man. Wujin questions if all of this is really true. Him having gone back in time doesn't make sense, but it really happened. That chance was all he needed. Wujin remembers the day he was expelled, when he said he worked harder than anyone so he wouldn't shame the family. Even if he wasn't treated like a person, even if he wasn't talented, he worked harder than anyone. After that, they threw him out. This is his chance to get revenge on the Beak family of the Divine Sword. Seriously, Wujin says he doesn't believe everything the man says, but if he can take him where he wants to go, he'll trust him. Blackstone says that's enough. Wujin says status window and the system opens, informing that he is now 15 years old, owner of the magic sword, with no skills, rank, or specialization. He is shocked by what he sees and says that can't be possible. His status is at the lowest rank in physical strength, swordsmanship, mana, wisdom, and stamina. His mentality is intermediate rank. Wujin feels sad seeing that he is in the lowest rank. Blackstone says, as he thought, the boy's rank is pathetic. Except for his mentality, everything is at the lowest. The man is smiling at him and the boy is confused. Then he says the man's appearance changed. Suddenly, the man became just a child. Blackstone says that's why he's trying to make him stronger. It's because of Wujin that he's that weak, but he'll show him since the boy doesn't believe him. He transforms into a sword and says that is his original form and the power he has reflects in his appearance. Wujin wonders how it's possible for a person to become a sword. Turning back into a child, Blackstone asks if the boy believes him now and says that to obtain his original power, he needs to level him up. That's the contract. The boy says that's ridiculous. He has no talent and will die of old age before Blackstone can get his power back. The child says he likes that about him. Wujin is confused and Blackstone explains that it's not fun having a master who is already strong. It's better to help someone who's a blank slate. He needs to go through hardship to achieve his goals. Blackstone says he suffered in the void for over 200 years and doesn't plan on choosing the easy path. The boy wonders if the sword sent him back in time so he could have another chance. Smiling, Wujin says he'll sign the magic sword contract with him. Blackstone smiles, happy, and says they should take the first step. The system informs that through basic training, his stamina and body will be conditioned until he can hold a sword. Wujin asks about the quest. The system says that during the quest, his stamina and physical experience will increase a lot. The boy asks if that even makes sense. A status window and a quest. He asks about the reward, which is experience points, and says it's just like a video game. Excited, Blackstone says that he understood and says it will show the best path for his growth. It's a modern method of hologram messaging. The sword explains that communicating with the owner wasn't always like this. For some it was books, for others, letters. The method ends up not being the most important thing. The method constantly pushes to the limit without rest. If he follows what it says, even trash like Wujin can be called a genius. The boy asks why Blackstone chose him. After all, someone like him can be found anywhere. Blackstone begins to talk about the reason he made a contract with Wujin, and concludes by saying that this and the will of the magic sword will be revealed at the end of that test. Wujin is confused about the will of the magic sword and tells him to stop babbling. It's time to start the quest. The system announces that it has begun. While the boy struggles to complete the challenge, Blackstone says he is disappointed, tells him to improve his posture, breathe properly, and fix his knees. Crying, Wujin says the sword told him it was just to run, but it says that if getting strong were possible just by running, everyone would be amazing. He must challenge himself. Outraged, the boy screams that he didn't know he'd reach his limit. Blackstone tells him to stop talking nonsense and fix his posture. The sword's angle is the point. He points out that Woojin's breathing is wrong and the angle of his knee too. Now angry, the boy tells the sword to shut up. While running, he says they'll see who's going to win. Blackstone stays silent and thinks that no matter how he looks at it, this is interesting. Everything about Woojin is at a low level, except for his mentality. One of the Beak family boys is shocked to see him running around. The sword asks its master if he's walking now and says it can see his feet. Woojin gets indignant and says he's running. Blackstone thinks the boy has a deep passion for something. It must be related to Beak Hojong. Then he realizes what that feeling is. It's not passion, it's hatred. The sword wonders how so much hatred can fit inside someone's body, especially a 15-year-old boy. Blackstone begins to reflect on the first time he saw him, but Woojin stops behind him and says he's finished. Looking at the boy, the child says running fast is already very hard, even more so to do 15 laps. Woojin says he almost couldn't do it and asks if this really works and he's not just wasting energy. He says he did what the sword told him. He has confidence in one thing, his pride and mentality. Blackstone says those are two things. Seriously, Woojin says it's just an expression, but that was the limit of his stamina. If he does less, it loses efficiency. If he does more, he gets hurt. Then he asks if Blackstone can see his status. The child says yes, he's connected to his soul and can see everything. Finally, it shows the results of his training. The system informs that for having trained beyond his limits, his stamina and physical strength leveled up. Blackstone says the boy's pride and mentality are a talent and a possibility for him. Woojin becomes thoughtful about that. Surprised, he says it's the first time he's heard something like that. Besides, it's the first time he's reaped the rewards of his efforts. Calmly, Blackstone says he really is 15 and tells them to wrap up today's training. Woojin asks if they can run a little more. The sword says, concerned that it could hurt the boy, but he says it's okay and he even feels lighter. Besides, the feeling he's having is like something that was closed has now been opened. The boy looks to the sky and Blackstone wonders how this could have happened. It's not common for status to increase in less than a day, but his body also got stronger. Indignant, he yells for Woojin to stop. The boy asks why, since the quest says to raise his status to 15. Worried, he says the change in his status is unpredictable and there's no way to know what will happen to his body. Woojin asks if the sword knows why his status increased, and it doesn't know what to answer. Then Woojin says Blackstone said their souls are connected and that he gave him that quest. The child says he only connects the boy to the system's quest. Confused, the boy asks who gives the quests, and Blackstone says he doesn't know either. The sword says its soul is inside a sword that someone made. Since then, he's learned many sword skills and training methods. Then he comments that he wants to ask Woojin for something. The boy asks what it is. Blackstone starts saying that there's something strange about the boy. He senses an unusual amount of hatred coming from him. That's an emotion that usually takes more than 15 years to build. Woojin thinks about how the sword said their souls are connected and wonders if it knows he went back in time, or if it knows the reason why that happened. Maybe if he mentions it, Blackstone will have an answer. He spent hundreds of years as a spirit, so he might be able to help. Woojin starts to tell Blackstone that he already died once, but someone appears behind him, saying that Cho Wooyan was right. The person says that guy is annoying him in many different ways. Woojin recognizes that voice. It's Hojong saying Woojin is a bitch running around all over the place. The boy thinks that before he went back in time, that guy humiliated him in a way he'll never forget. He remembers Hojong saying he was useless, and saying that he reached rank 1 in swordsmanship at 14 years old. Smiling, Beak Hojong tells them to look at the results of that shitty training. Woojin asks himself, scared, why Beak Hojong is there. After all, at that time, he should be training. Hojong calls Woojin an idiot. Then he says his older brother is right there, but he didn't lower his head. Angrily, Hojong tells the boy to bow. Before he wipes out his entire race, Woojin bows and the older brother laughs and asks if he only listens when he's insulted. Then he asks what the boy is doing and if he shouldn't be training. Smiling, he asks if he's giving up. Blackstone asks Woojin who that fish-faced guy is, and the boy says he's his older brother, the 6th son. The child is surprised and asks if that's the person Woojin mentioned when he signed the contract. Then he says the boy will catch up to Hojong quickly, if he follows the training properly. Blackstone messes with Hojong's face, making him pull funny expressions while calling Woojin a brat, but the boy ends up laughing at his face. Hojong gets furious and asks if Woojin wants to get beaten up. A woman appears and tells him to shut up. The girl says that father will arrive soon and Hojong should stay quiet. She is the direct descendant of the Beak family of the Divine Sword, the second daughter Beak Unkyun. Then she turns to Woojin and says that his aura manifestation ceremony will be that afternoon. Since their father will be watching, he must not disappoint him. The boy realizes that it's the day of the ceremony and wonders why he came back to this exact moment. Someone announces that the patriarch is arriving and they welcome him. The old man advances through several bowed people. The child asks Woojin if that's his father, and the boy confirms, asking what the sword thinks. Blackstone is shocked that someone that powerful exists in this world. Not only the patriarch, but there are several strong people there. He emphasizes that Hojong is not among the strong ones. The sword tells Woojin not to panic because this is his only quest. The boy confirms that the quest was to raise stamina and strength to 15. The system appears and informs that he must raise strength and stamina to 15 without using the sword. During the quest, his stamina and physique will increase drastically. The child says Woojin needs to remember that he just needs to take the first step to begin his journey. The boy says he'll finish the quest before the ceremony. Outraged, the sword says that's nonsense. No one has ever managed to finish it in a single day, but the boy runs off. Blackstone asks where Woojin is going, and he replies that it was the sword who said if he finished the quest, he'd be strong enough. Besides that, it also said he'd be able to catch up to that piece of trash Beak Hojong quickly, so he's going to start right away. The child runs after him indignant, then shouts that if he goes beyond his limit, he'll end up getting hurt. The system announces that he received a special title, Student Who Ignores His Trainer. His physical and stamina stats have increased. Woojin is shocked that he managed to raise his stamina and physical stats at the same time. Then he reaches the quest condition, hitting 15. The system announces that he completed the quest, and the sword asks what Woojin is doing. The boy says he's had plenty of crazy and messed up masters before, but he's never met anyone like him. The system informs that his stamina recovery has increased. The sword says Woojin knew it would turn out this way, and he asks if it's some kind of fortune teller. Something scares him and he asks what that is. It's the system announcing that his intimacy with Blackstone has increased. The sword says that it's about their connection. Confused, Woojin asks why he needs to increase their intimacy level, and the child says it has to do with the contract they share. Woojin thinks this feels more like a dating game. If he can't get close to Blackstone, he'll never be allowed to use its power. The boy wonders if he's dead and dreaming right now, but Blackstone calls for him. He's startled because the system informed him that since he shocked Blackstone, he received 200 additional points. It's the first time the sword has seen something like this. Blackstone is indignant that Woojin got points just for shocking him. The sword starts hitting the boy and asks what he is and how he's getting rewards like that, but Woojin doesn't know how to answer. The child starts crying, complaining that his dignity as a magic sword collapsed in just 4 chapters. The boy thinks his own dignity vanished long ago. Then he gets Blackstone's attention and asks him to look at something. It's Woojin's basic information showing he earned 500 points from the quest. Then he asks the sword where he should use them. The child tells him to increase his stamina and physique to 20, and those 2 stats will reach the lower rank. Then he'll definitely notice the difference. He can save the remaining points for later. The system announces that the stats have been increased. Woojin feels something strange. It feels like his whole body is being broken. He feels an absurd amount of pain and asks Blackstone what's happening. The system informs that his physical body was modified according to his rank, which is increased to low rank. Suddenly, the unbearable pain disappears. The sword asks happily if Woojin now understands how weak he was, and that fortunately, he was able to endure it. The boy asks what would have happened if he hadn't. Blackstone starts to answer, but then says that since he endured it well, everything's fine. Woojin is scared by what could have happened if he hadn't endured that pain. Someone says it looks like everyone is there now. It's the patriarch, who announces that it's finally time for the last direct descendant to have his aura manifestation ceremony. He continues to saying that his first son, Yanhui, couldn't attend and everyone should already know why. The third son, Beak Sanyun, lowers his head. Also present are the 5th daughter, Beak Soi, and the 4th daughter, Beak Shena, who are also direct descendants of the Beak family of the Divine Sword. The patriarch says they no longer need to delay and asks Woojin to begin. The boy agrees. Then he manipulates a large white sphere. Woojin thinks that before going back in time, he wasn't able to manifest anything at that age during the ceremony. He only manifested at 24. Even then, it was a useless white aura. He tries to motivate himself, saying he can do it. Blackstone looks at him smiling. The system gives a new quest to activate the aura using the Danshin instead of the heart. By doing so, he will activate a unique aura and receive 8 points and the ability to sense mana. Woojin is shocked by that quest. He's confused about activating the aura using the Danshin. The sword tells Woojin to trust it and complete the quest. He needs an aura worthy of a magic sword owner. Blackstone says he'll be different from most people in his world. Experts usually forge their own paths. Woojin thinks about the unique aura. Then he decides to try since the quest said it would help him grow. The system announces that he has started the quest. For accepting the mission, you will receive a unique aura. From the white sphere, a black aura begins to emanate. Everyone present is terrified. The second daughter, Unkyung, is shocked by the black aura. Someone screams that a demon is inside that bastard's aura. Then Unkyung starts charging at Woojin. She yells that she may not know how he got a demon, but if his aura has a demon, there's only one thing to do, which is to annihilate him. A young man throws himself in front of Woojin and defends him with his sword. The girl questions what Nunam is doing. Then she yells that if he doesn't want to lose his life too, he better get out of the way. Unkyung insists that Woojin has demonic energy, but Nunam defends that the boy's aura is just black. Woojin is confused and questions his supposed demonic energy. He starts reflecting that he made contact with Blackstone, which is a magic sword. Furious, Unkyung yells that she's never heard of a human with black energy. Nunam asks her to look properly at Woojin's aura. Ignoring the young man, she yells that if Nunam doesn't get out of the way, she'll take him down first. The old man calmly asks what she's doing. In a dark tone, he asks when he said she could draw her sword. The two stop fighting and are shocked that the patriarch has spoken. He uses his power and strikes the girl. Unkyung spits blood and Nunam becomes worried. Angrily, the patriarch asks when he said she could annihilate her brother. Desperately, the girl says she didn't think it through and apologizes. Then he tells her to look with her own eyes. Her pure mana differs from that of the demonic family. The color is different. This is power that comes from mana with a trained aura. Kneeling on the ground, Unkyung apologizes again and says he's right. He says he knows she carries great resentment against the demonic family, but with such carelessness, she will end up losing her head to them. Finally, he says that for the sin of drawing her sword, Kyung must enter meditation for 6 months. The girl agrees. Woojin thinks about how much the patriarch cares for Baek Unkyun. If that warning had been given to him, he wouldn't even be able to stand up. With the right clothes and a solid system, he needs to become stronger than everyone if he wants to destroy that house. The patriarch calls for Woojin, who turns his attention to him. The old man says he's never heard of a black aura, but he senses extraordinary energy coming from it, so he congratulates the boy. He thanks him. Then the patriarch asks why Woojin is storing his mana in his stomach. Woojin is shocked by the patriarch's question. Hojong and the other heirs are shocked that the boy is storing his mana that way. He becomes worried that the patriarch noticed it. Woojin starts to reflect. He can't give a good answer to the patriarch, or he might destroy his aura. Looking at the old man, the boy says it's because he is different. He explains that he didn't inherit the Baek family's talent like his siblings. His body is weak and his heart isn't very active. He has problems when he uses mana through his heart, so he had to create his own path, storing mana in his stomach instead of his heart. Seriously, the old man asks if he's going to follow the will of those who were eliminated, the trash who can't train their hearts and store mana in their stomachs. The patriarch comments that he's crazy for walking around with 2 vital points, and Woojin says he knows that. But he's going to become stronger than everyone with his own methods. He shocks the patriarch by saying there's no need to explain. He'll prove it with results. The old man starts laughing loudly. Then he says the boy is quite arrogant. That's why he likes Woojin, and concludes by saying he should do as he pleases. He adds that Woojin will have to surpass 7 brothers and sisters to reach the highest place in the Baek family of the Divine Sword. If he can't, he will either be annihilated or he will suffer. Smiling, Woojin says he'll be under the patriarch's care. The old man agrees. Then he closes the manifestation ceremony. Elsewhere, one of the brothers comments that he was quite surprised. He's speaking to Woojin. It's already impressive that he manifested an aura, even more so that it's black. Throughout all that, Unkyung tried to take him down, and thinking about it, the boy trained his aura with his stomach. Sighing, he says that day was more surprising than the day the new dungeon opened. Grabbing Woojin's arm, he asks what the boy did. The boy's body grew a lot, plus his response to mana has become smoother. He wants to know how Woojin developed a body like that so quickly, especially since during the last checkup, it wasn't like that. Then Woojin comments that he didn't just train with the sword, but also his stamina. Sangyun says that's unusual for someone who always trains with the sword. Still, he didn't know it was possible to train stamina that much in just 1 week, but he hopes the boy keeps training that way because it's working. Woojin says he will, and that he also told something to their father. Sangyun takes something out of his pocket for Woojin. It's the Kamel stone he got on his last mission. It will help him stabilize his aura. The boy looks at the stone in his hand and asks if it isn't expensive, but Sangyun says it's fine and he should take it as a reward for training so hard. Woojin thanks him. Another brother appears and calls out to the boy. He comments that Woojin was acting full of himself in front of their father, showing off because he unleashed his aura. It's Baek Manhwa. The brother says that even if Woojin has unleashed his aura, he's still going to be just swordsman loser number 1. Then he suggests that they have a little talk. Seriously, Woojin says he has nothing to talk about with Manhwa, but the guy tells him to follow while he's still being nice. Something scares Woojin. While Manhwa tells him to follow if he doesn't want to get beaten and cry like a baby, a system window appears behind him. It's a surprise quest. He must defeat Baek Manhwa. He's suffered all his life, and this is his chance for revenge. The reward is 300 points plus a surprise reward. Blackstone explains that surprise quests sometimes appear, and the rewards are usually beyond even the wildest expectations, so it would be a good idea to try. Manhwa asks if Woojin's not going to answer him. The boy thinks how in his past lives it was different. Staring at Woojin, Manhwa comments that maybe he went too easy on him before. Then the boy asks who said it wasn't him going easy. Meanwhile, he's thinking it's worth trying the quest. Manhwa gets furious and yells that Woojin is trash as he punches him in the face. He grabs the boy by the hair, then tells him to decide if he wants to be beaten until he faints or faint from being beaten. They head to the storage room, and Manhwa comments that Woojin has been saying some interesting things, like what he said in front of their father, that he's going to become stronger than all his siblings using his own methods. He says that's never going to happen, and Woojin tells him to shut up since there's no way he could know that. Blackstone comments that he's curious and wants to know if Woojin really believes he can achieve that goal, and the boy replies that of course he does. At that moment, Baek Manhwa is nothing more than a flashy jerk. Angrily, Manhwa yells that he needs to teach Woojin a lesson, and asks what happened since last week when he used to listen to him. He lands a punch on Woojin, but the boy defends with his arms. Then Manhwa kicks him. Woojin suffers from the pain, and his brother says he'll never be able to catch up to him. With Woojin thrown against the wall, Manhwa keeps talking, that he should just shut up and listen to him. Woojin is hit with more blows. He's on the ground after the beating, but suddenly he turns toward Manhwa in fury. The brother mocks him and prepares to kick him again. He says he'll make sure Woojin never talks back to him again, but the boy grabs his foot with one hand. All at once, he gets up, startling Manhwa. With a swift movement, Woojin kicks his brother in the face. Manhwa says he's still trash, and full of rage, he begins to say he's going to wipe him out. Suddenly, he falls to his knees on the ground out of strength. He wonders how this happened. Woojin explains that he's having a concussion from being hit in the jaw, so he should learn where it hurts when you get hit. The boy grabs his brother's hair, but Manhwa begs him to wait. Smiling, Woojin gets closer and tells his brother to let him break him first. A sound of screams echoes from the storage room. The system informs that Woojin has completed the quest. Therefore, he will be rewarded with 300 points and a surprise. Blackstone is shocked watching what just happened. Then he regains composure and says the boy did well. The sword comments that it was surprised Woojin was just waiting for the right moment to attack. It thought he would just pass out. Looking at Manhwa, Blackstone asks if Woojin thinks he'll come after him when he wakes up, but the boy says his brother has too much ego and is too much of a coward. He thinks his brother will never come back, afraid of being exposed, so things will stay quiet for a while. Before Woojin leaves, Blackstone says he wants to clear up a doubt with him. Then he comments that all the swordsmen they saw the day before, members of the Beak family, had mana circling their hearts. He asks why they don't have mana in their stomachs, why they don't store it in the energy center. Woojin explains that it's a matter of efficiency. It's easier to focus mana in one place. Blackstone asks why Woojin accepted the quest without thinking twice. He replies that it was the only solution, and the sword asks what he means by solution. Then he explains that if he had been indecisive like in the past, he would have destroyed his energy center like he did before. The sword comments that he received a quest that gave him an aura when he focused mana into his energy center. Woojin says maybe since the aura he had in his past life was useless, he's happy to have gotten something better this time. Blackstone gets scared. Then he questions what Woojin just said. The boy repeats that if he were as indecisive as in the past, he would have destroyed his energy center. The sword is startled and asks what he means by in the past. Woojin is startled and realizes Blackstone didn't know he had reincarnated. Nervous, he comments that there's no use hiding it and that he already wanted to ask about it anyway. Then he shares that he lived until he was 25 years old, then died and returned to a 15-year-old body. The sword is in shock. Woojin explains that due to his lack of talent, he was considered a burden to the family from birth, was never treated as equal by his siblings, and was always beaten. Then he was expelled from the family at 25, lost the veins in his arm and his aura in the process. That's when a huge rift appeared and an ogre attacked him. Then he ended up losing his life. Blackstone is speechless. Thoughtful, the sword comments that it's true then. Woojin says that as soon as he came back, he met Blackstone. The boy says that now things are starting to make sense, that's why he accepted the quest so easily. Then asks what Woojin's goal is. The boy is confused. Smiling, Blackstone says that now the boy has a strong ally like him, something he didn't have in his past life, so he must have some life goal. Woojin begins to explain that his misery started in the Beak family of the Divine Sword, so he has a goal, to become the strongest swordsman of all. He's going to defeat his father and become the patriarch to change that shitty family from the inside. Laughing, Blackstone says he figured he would want that. He says, smiling, that he liked Woojin's answer, and that's how his master should be. Touching the boy's face, Blackstone says his regression has nothing to do with their contract, but now it's already happened. He's not only going to become stronger than Beak Hojong, Blackstone intends to make him stronger than his family, his father, and every swordsman in the world. Mysteriously, Woojin asks if that can really be done. The sword responds that it all depends on the boy, but it will be impossible for him not to reach his goals. Confident, Woojin says he is in the process of achieving his goals, and Blackstone comments that's a good attitude. Then Blackstone comments that as his magic sword, he's going to make Woojin the strongest swordsman in the world. The system announces that the surprise quest rewards are here, so Woojin must test his luck and choose one of the cards. Blackstone explains that this is the reward from the surprise quest, and his aura reward still requires more training for him to obtain it. The sword explains that Woojin can only choose one of the cards. The boy comments that it really seems like a game. The sword comments that both the front and back of the cards look the same. He'll only know what it is after choosing. Mocking, Blackstone says his former master only ever got rocks every time. Trusting, Woojin chooses a card. The other cards dissipate. In Woojin's hand appears a ball that looks like a marble. Blackstone is shocked and says that it's a mana sensitivity pill. It's a pill that permanently increases sensitivity to mana. Blackstone is very surprised by what Woojin got. Then he questions how someone mediocre like the boy got something so incredible. Confused, Woojin asks what mana sensitivity is. Blackstone asks if they don't use those terms over there and says he'll have an easier time sensing auras. If he eats that pill, the growth of his aura will multiply several times. Tense, Woojin asks if it won't have any side effects if he eats it. The sword gets angry and says it's a precious item with no side effects. Woojin comments that he's had some trauma related to growth. Blackstone asks if he's referring to when he increased his stats. Then the sword says that suffering only happened because his physical condition was crap. Woojin gets annoyed at the way Blackstone talks. Then he decides to eat the pill since it has no side effects. Suddenly, something happens. Woojin is surprised because he doesn't feel anything and asks the little guy if it's supposed to be like that. Blackstone explains that it's because his mana sensitivity is still very low. The more he grows, the more effects it will have, so he shouldn't worry. The sword says he did well that day. Now he should go rest. The next day, she will teach Woojin how to accumulate mana, but the boy says he wants to do it that day. Angrily, Blackstone yells that Woojin needs to rest even while training. The boy says his recovery time is faster, so it's okay. He sits on the ground and says that if Blackstone understands what he's saying, he should help him and stop yelling. Outside, a young man watches everything. It's Mu Juyang from the Black Sword Squad who goes to the Patriarch. He reports that there was an incident he needs to report. The Patriarch asks him to tell more about it. Then Juyang says that Woojin defeated Myung-hoon. The Patriarch is surprised. The young man explains that even though they didn't use swords, they still fought. Confused, the Patriarch asks if Myung-hoon, a rank 2 swordsman, lost to Woojin, who doesn't even know how to use aura properly. Juyang confirms. Then he explains that Myung-hoon struck first and Woojin was on defense but quickly turned the tables. Smiling, the Patriarch says that Myung-hoon probably underestimated Woojin, and that's why he lost. He asks what Myung-hoon is doing at the moment, and Mu Juyang says that after the boy woke up, he entered his room and hasn't come out since. The patriarch says he's a pathetic coward for deciding to reflect in isolation on his own. In the room, Manhwa questions how he lost to a useless guy. Then the patriarch asks about Woojin. Joyoung says that he also remained in his room this whole time but seems to be training. Smiling, the old man says he thought he'd be desperately bored, but an interesting change has occurred. He asks the young man to summon Manhwa there. The patriarch intends to set the stage for Beak Woojin. The next day, Woojin asks Blackstone if he should stabilize his abdomen to open the aura from the quest he received. The sword confirms. Then Woojin says he thought about it the next day but believes there's an easier way to get it. The sword asks what he means by that. Woojin picks up a hammer and says that now that he knows how to accumulate mana, he needs to try using the stone his brother gave him. Confused, Blackstone asks what he intends to do with the hammer. Then the boy strikes the stone. It shatters with one hit. The sword screams, asking what the boy did, and says that even if he hates the family, he shouldn't destroy his brother's gift. Woojin says he likes Songyun. He says that's the right way to use the Kamel stone. The traditional way is to hold the Kamel stone while training, but when you break the stone, you see the mana coming from it. Woojin explains that if you break the stone, the condensed mana will spread in a specific area. In that state, he'll train his aura and absorb that mana. Then he mentions that he needs to focus and try to breathe in the mana. The boy absorbs a large amount of mana, and the system reports that his mana stat increased by 5. Since the stone was used for the first time, he gained 200 points. Blackstone asks if the boy didn't say the stone was famous and how he could be the first to use it. Woojin explains that people probably use it wrong. Outraged, Blackstone comments that Woojin is lucky and very ridiculous. He replies that he thinks his aura will only grow on its own at that pace. Happy, Blackstone says his aura grew a lot, and because of that, his restrictions were removed. Woojin is confused. The system reports that Blackstone's first seal was dispelled. The boy turns into a dagger in front of Woojin. Woojin asks if that means Blackstone is turning into a weapon, and the dagger confirms, saying that now the boy can use him as a weapon. He comments that now he remembers Blackstone's original form is a sword, and the dagger says that once he regains all his power, he'll return to being a sword. Then he asks Woojin to try using him. The boy holds Blackstone and comments that this is the first time he's held a sword since he came back. The dagger asks if he can feel it. Woojin is startled by the aura. It's leaking out, which is why Blackstone's called a magic sword. Screaming in desperation, Woojin asks the dagger to stop, but it responds that the stronger he gets, the stronger it will become, and he needs more power to use it stably. Woojin drops the dagger to the ground. Blackstone begins to say that now his master has great powers. He returns to his child form and adds that with that, great responsibilities come. That was just the first seal. There's still a long road ahead. Woojin is sweating in despair and says that it's not possible. He could barely hold Blackstone. He doesn't know if he'll even be able to move. Calmly, the sword begins to say that this is something temporary. For now, he needs to recover. He is growing and other benefits have been unlocked. The system informs that Woojin can now access the inventory. Blackstone explains that the inventory is like a pouch in a shallow pocket. He'll be able to place his things in an inventory that resides in his aura. Woojin gets excited because that's like a rank B item. Excited, the sword says the space he can use now is very small. The more seals he unlocks, the more space he'll be able to use. Woojin concludes that he has to train like crazy to use the sword properly. Blackstone confirms, saying it's not just any sword. The boy opens his status window. The previous quest still hasn't been completed, even though he has the aura. Blackstone explains that he needs more mana to be able to use the aura. Woojin concludes that, in that case, his priority should be to complete the open quests. The patriarch asks Beak Manhwa what happened to his face that is bruised. The boy stammers. Seriously, the old man says he asked him a question. Manhwa thinks that the patriarch already knows he lost to that loser Beak Woojin. Nervously, he says it's an injury he got from Woojin when he let his guard down, but if he faces him properly, he'll definitely win. The patriarch says he got beaten by his younger, unranked brother and even fainted. Now he wants to use letting his guard down as an excuse. Neela and Manhwa asks for forgiveness. Then the patriarch asks what he's been doing after getting beaten by his younger brother. Manhwa says he's trying to gather information. Seriously, the old man says he thought he let his guard down and didn't need information to beat Woojin, and asks if he also wants his sword. Indignant, Manhwa says he saw the boy receive something from brother Songyun. He should know what it is, but the patriarch interrupts. He says the boy has fallen again into his own useless and selfish path. Nervously, Manhwa tries to speak to his father, but the old man doesn't want to hear him anymore and tells him to leave. As the boy leaves, the patriarch asks if he wouldn't like to make Woojin surrender. The patriarch asks if Manhwa knows the motto of the Beak family of the divine sword. He says it's strength above all, obedience to orders above all. The patriarch smiles and says he should crush Woojin and make him regret it. Then, who knows, maybe he can climb step by step to the position of patriarch. With hatred in his eyes, Manhwa says he will prove his worth. Later, looking out the room window, Blackstone comments to Woojin that the boy has been like that for hours. Outside, Manhwa is staring at the window furiously. Blackstone asks why he's there, and Woojin says the patriarch must have done something. Even in his past life, his father always provoked the brothers into fighting. With a personality like that, he surely said something to Manhwa. Besides that, he must have asked why he's not doing anything after getting beaten by his younger brother. Manhwa always came after Woojin after getting scolded by their father. Blackstone mocks, saying that family is incredible, always ready to fight at any moment. Woojin asks if this isn't an opportunity for them. They convince Beak Manhwa and make him kneel at their feet. He should teach his older brother a lesson this time. The sword thinks that Woojin's personality is pretty strong and wonders if growth. That's why people say that parental discipline is important. Blackstone then says it's better to train than to focus on that bastard. The boy agrees, saying that training aura with his energy center seems to be working. Staring at the boy, the sword tells him to concentrate again and comments that he's doing much better than when he started. Then she tells him not to focus on the flow of mana, but instead on creating a path for it to travel through the inside. Woojin gets serious, and Blackstone says that mana needs to flow throughout his entire body. You must focus the mana into the energy center. This is the training method he'll pass on. Blackstone says that this is Kane's aura training method. The boy thinks about how he can feel his mana pulsing like a waterfall. He felt mana in his past life, but it was nothing like this. So this is the energy center training. Woojin feels the mana not only in his body, but also around him. He wonders if that is the feeling of having mana completely stabilized in his body. A man stares at him, and Woojin feels confused about the familiar feeling. Could that person be Kane, the one Blackstone talked about? Woojin thinks about how familiar he seems. Suddenly, Woojin opens his eyes in shock. He's confused because it's already nighttime. Blackstone says the boy was doing well but got distracted by his thoughts. His mana sensitivity was broken. Smiling, the sword says he did well. The system informs that Woojin has learned Kane's training method, stably applied mana to his energy center, and can now use his aura and mana with that method. Woojin gets very excited because the mana was applied stably. He finally completed the quest. He gets really excited and shouts to Blackstone that he finally got his aura. The system gives him the Rasadum aura, Black Wind. Blackstone is shocked. Even though Woojin has a good mindset, learning that training methods so quickly is shocking. The system reports that he received 100 additional points for leaving Blackstone amazed. The sword gets indignant, saying he wasn't amazed. Blackstone comments that it usually doesn't work so half-heartedly like that. He becomes serious, thinking that more than that. Beak Woojin has memories about Kane. Excited, Woojin asks if he should make use of the quest rewards. Now the boy has Kane's aura training method at level 1, and besides improving the level of his physical capacity, mana, and strength, he now has 600 points. He asks Blackstone if he taught him Kane's aura training method, and the sword confirms. Reflective, he comments that his sword aura probably comes from the person called Rasadum. Blackstone says that it's the first time he's heard that name, but since it's the first time in this world, he acquired a very precious aura. Boasting, Blackstone starts saying he's known for great luck, but Woojin interrupts him. The sword admits that the boy developed more than expected. Woojin says this is just the beginning and asks how he can level up with 600 points. Blackstone says that since he doesn't have any quest at the moment, he can drop all of his abilities to low level. Smiling, he says something special will happen once he does that, so Woojin says that's the first thing he wants to level up. He increases his sword skill by 8, and Blackstone gets confused. Then he says he understands now. Woojin had a divine revelation. The boy asks what the sword is talking about. Blackstone starts mocking, asking if after capturing him, Woojin's ki dropped to 0. The boy gets angry and says he didn't exaggerate like that. Smiling, the sword says it's not the worst choice, since he needs to reach low rank for the training to be effective. Woojin increases intelligence by 4, and his points are now gone. He can't max out everything. Now his sword skill has leveled up, and Woojin asks how he can train his intelligence. Blackstone says he needs to polish his aura and mana. Stretching, Woojin says that it's time to start training. The sword asks if Beak Menhun isn't stalking him. Smiling, the boy says his brother is a coward, and since he got beaten last time, must be waiting for the next time. Blackstone says then the boy can train in peace, but he denies it, commenting that the sword is very foolish. Then Woojin confirms if the sword said he needs to train his aura to increase intelligence. With a cruel smile, Woojin says now he has a great punching bag and should use it. Blackstone is confused and asks if he's referring to Beak Menhun. Leaving, Woojin says he just needs to practice the aura application method and goes to meet his brother. Worried, the sword says she knows the boy returned in the body of a 15-year-old, but this seems a bit difficult, even if his brother is a little dumb. She says if he faces him head-on, it'll be tough, but Woojin doesn't seem worried and says he knows what he's doing, telling the sword to watch. The boy lets out an evil laugh, and Blackstone wonders if he's going crazy. Outside, Myung-hoon curses in the training field. He's full of hatred for Woojin, thinking about how he's a miserable rag. Someone bumps into him. It catches his attention. It's his sister, who asks what's wrong. Myung-hoon says she's the one who bumped into him first. Covering her mouth, she asks if that bastard isn't ashamed of himself. The boy is confused. Then she says she heard he lost to Beak Woojin, and everyone around is talking about how pathetic he is for losing to someone who doesn't even have a rank. Mocking, she says that he looked down on Woojin so much, but in the end, he's just as pathetic. Myung-hoon starts trembling with rage as his sister walks away laughing. He clenches his teeth, furious. With all his anger, he swings a blow through the air while cursing. Someone approaches and says he looks fired up. Myung-hoon looks to see who it is. It's Woojin, smiling and waving as he approaches, mocking that his face looks much better and their doctor is really competent. Seriously, Myung-hoon asks where the boy thinks he is and if he really came there to die. But Woojin doesn't seem fazed and mocks him more, asking why he's so angry and saying he'll give him another chance. Then he announces that they should fight right there. Yelling, the boy asks if Woojin thinks he's all that just because he got an aura, and Woojin replies that he's giving Myung-hoon a chance to hit him. Myung-hoon is confused, not understanding what his younger brother is up to. Woojin is smiling, and the older brother wonders what he's thinking. It's like he's a completely different person, even though it's only been a few days since he got the aura. Could he have acquired some other ability? Woojin comments that Myung-hoon doesn't even need to use his sword. Just fists will do since it's easier for him. Throwing his sword away, the older brother yells that he's going to split Woojin's head in half. Furious, he thinks he won't be defeated like last time. Woojin gets into a fighting stance. He takes a deep breath. Then Manhwa charges at him, and Woojin blocks with his arm. Calmly, Woojin says he can see his strategy clearly. He's trying to use the same method he lost with last time, aiming for his head. Woojin gets serious and ducks to dodge a blow. He activates the Razadum aura, Black Wind, then lands a punch on his older brother's chin, slowing his opponent's movements temporarily. Manhwa is stunned. Woojin lands several consecutive hits, then stabilizes himself on the ground, and throws his older brother far away with a single move. Manhwa finds himself defeated, but Woojin hasn't ended the fight yet. He charges at his brother and lands a kick on his face. On the ground, Manhwa desperately asks what the point of all that is. Woojin calmly brushes the dust off his hands. He's satisfied with the fight, then says he now understands how to use the aura. Blackstone thinks about how he ended up with the most insane master in the world, capable of using aura to beat up his older brother. The sky is clear. Someone says the buildings are ridiculously tall. It's basically a forest. Blackstone asks where Woojin is going and since when does he even leave the house. Woojin comments that he tested on Beak Manhwa how well he can use aura. Now that he can fully use his aura, he's going to register. Blackstone is confused. Woojin explains that since he's an aura user, he needs to register with the association. At the reception, a girl asks how she can help him. Then Woojin says he wants to register as a swordsman. He's signing up as a rank 1 swordsman. The receptionist asks him to fill out a form with his information first, then he'll take an aura level test. As soon as he signs his name, she looks surprised, then confirms if his name is Beak Woojin, and he says yes. She asks if he's from the Beak family of the Divine Sword, and Woojin says no, and that he's not a big fan of the Beak family. The receptionist apologizes for the confusion and comments that someone from the Beak family of the Divine Sword was there the month before. Angrily, she slams the desk, then starts telling, furious, that the person was an idiot and kept saying he wasn't inferior enough to take an aura level test. She concludes by saying it was the first time she met someone so stupid, and Woojin agrees that he was probably a jerk. The receptionist gets closer and says someone as kind as him couldn't possibly be related to such an idiot. Finally, she comments that he's also very handsome. Blackstone asks if the boy doesn't care about his ancestors, and Woojin says he's been planning to destroy his ancestors for a long time. The girl says he's finished the basics, and the boy's phone beeps. His certificate was registered in the app. Now he just needs to take the aura level test. Smiling, Woojin thanks her. On the way back home, Blackstone asks if the boy is really that happy. He asks if the sword isn't, since in his past life he only got that certificate at 24. Blackstone says he still acts like he's 15. Then he concludes, saying that more things will change in the future, and it's still too early to be amazed. Woojin agrees that this is just the beginning. Someone on the street yells for a swordsman. It's the receptionist who ran after him and asks if he has a minute. She mentions that a dungeon appeared nearby, but they're short on people, so she wondered if he might be interested. Sweating and nervous, she explains that there's someone waiting at the association, but she wanted to call him. It's a dungeon with moles, good for practice. Blackstone whispers in his ear that she's being nice because he helped her curse out her relatives. Woojin looks at his phone. The girl comments that now that he has his certificate, it might be good to have a field test. The boy thinks that if it's moles, it's not a problem, and how different this is from his past life. He smiles and says he'll go. This is a chance for him to test himself. A group meets with him, and one of the men asks if he's the rookie. Woojin introduces himself. The man says his name is Hong In-soo and comments that the boy is very lucky to get to go into a dungeon on his first day. Woojin says he'll do his best. Another man asks Hong In-soo why he's talking casually with someone from the Beak family, and he replies that his friend Young-hoo needs to think. Then he questions whether Young-hoo thinks someone from the Beak family would go into a dirty, small dungeon like that. The man agrees. Finally, Hong In-soo asks Young-hoo to go finish the preparations. The man obeys. Turning to Woojin, he asks if the boy is a swordsman from the Beak family. Calmly, he replies that he's not a big fan of the Beak family. Hong In-soo tells him not to say something like that, then asks if the boy doesn't know how cruel the Beak swordsmen are. Hong In-soo says that if the Beak family sees Woojin, he'll be in big trouble. Blackstone says the boy has a very bad reputation, and he comments that he didn't know it was that bad. Something catches Woojin's attention. It's a red-haired girl standing on top of a rock. She sees Woojin. The boy feels anger and starts thinking, and Blackstone asks if he knows her. Woojin says he has a bad feeling like he's seen her before. Mocking, Blackstone says the boy is acting just like a Beak. Then he remembers. It's Manhwa, from the Thundercloud Formation, the youngest daughter of the violent Geok Crimson Lotus family, from the Lightning Cloud Formation. Blackstone asks about the Crimson Lotus family, and Woojin explains that they're rivals of the Beak family. Even in his past life, Manhwa was among the most hated skilled people. They say she trained on her own without any help from her family. Hong In-soo says everything's ready and calls for Manhwa. She says she got it and comes down to where they are. Something about Woojin catches her attention. Then she asks who he is. The boy smiles and introduces himself as Beak Woojin. The woman introduces herself as Park Manhwa, leaving him confused. The sword says it understands what's going on. She's training while hiding which family she's from. Training normally without using her name, unlike a certain someone. Woojin asks if the sword is crazy and says it's the one who made the contract in the first place. Excited, Hong In-soo tells them to go in before it gets late. Everyone agrees. They start entering the dungeon. The man starts saying that everyone should already know this is the Vine Mole dungeon. It's not very dangerous despite how it looks. However, you can still get hurt if you're not careful, so everyone needs to stay alert. Blackstone asks Woojin if they really need to be afraid of moles. The boy explains that they're different. They move violently throughout the dungeon because they're huge. It was the moles who made that tunnel. The sword is shocked. As Hong In-soo steps on the ground, his foot sinks. The ground begins to shift, and he asks if he stepped on something wrong. Blackstone asks if that vibration is thanks to the moles. Then Hong In-soo shouts for everyone to be careful because they don't know where it's coming from. They need to watch their surroundings and avoid cracked areas. Suddenly, several spikes shoot up from the ground. Young-hoo says dealing with that will be difficult. Now that the monsters know they're there, they'll keep hunting them. Reflecting, Blackstone comments that their hearing is better than their sight. Someone yells for the group to be careful. Even though the moles are easy to kill, their claws are dangerous. Yamwa watches thoughtfully. A giant mole stares at the group, and Hong In-soo says that the vines around their necks look really strong. That's why it's better to aim for other parts of their bodies. Woojin draws his sword, but Blackstone says that's not the best place to use it. The boy seems calm and says he's fought them in his past life. One of the moles charges at the group. It tries to attack Yu, who defends with his hammer. More moles arrive from different directions. They glare at the group and surround all of them. Then they start charging rapidly. Dust rises with the impact of the blows. Hong In-soo curses the creatures. Without any effort, Yamwo defends against the monster's attacks while the man asks if everyone in the group is okay. A girl in the group yells that there haven't been many losses, but their visibility is limited because of the smoke. Blackstone asks Woojin to be careful because he has no field experience yet. It might be too much for him to handle. Even if he's strong, he should try to dodge and look for a better opening first. But Woojin remains in place. The sword yells at him, asking what he's doing and telling him to dodge, but the boy says he knows very well the mole's weakness. He activates Rasidum's aura Black Wind. Woojin focuses on the openings between the vines on the moles. He just needs to get there. With a single strike, he hits the monster's neck. The mole collapses in front of the boy. It's already lifeless, and Woojin shouts to the group that the creature's weakness is their necks, so they should aim for that. Confused, Yu says the vines get in the way. Someone yells for him to watch out for what's coming from behind. A mole is attacking the man from behind, but Yanwo arrives in time to help. She punches the mole in the face. The man is startled by the girl's speed. She lands on the ground. Smiling, she asks why bother aiming for the neck, if it's possible to annihilate them with brute force. Frustrated, Woojin thinks about how the girl is really good at what she does. Time passes inside the cave. It seems they've taken down most of them. Relieved, Hong In-soo comments that it was rude of them to attack as soon as they entered. Yanwo starts to say that since everyone avoids those creatures, there isn't much information about them. Then she asks Woojin how he knew their weakness was in the neck. The boy gets nervous and says someone told him and said it's good to study the monsters before entering dungeons. Joking, Blackstone asks who it was that gave Woojin that information. The boy tells the sword not to worry about it since it was his past self who taught him. Then he questions how the moles can be so aggressive. The girl in the group agrees and says they should be rank 1 monsters. Hong In-soo comments that their skin seemed tougher than expected. There might be something unusual going on. Then something startles the man. He signals for the group to stop. Inside the cave, there's a fork, 2 paths. Turning to the group, Hong In-soo says things are in their favor. The association only asked them to get rid of the moles, so they should split up. Something appears behind them, and Yoo-hoo yells for Hong In-soo to look. On the mole's head is a symbol. It's the seal of a boss. Someone says that's probably why the others seem stronger. Another shouts asking what the hell the moles are mining there. Blackstone asks Woojin about the boss, and the boy explains that it's the dungeon's guardian. Even though dungeons with a boss have better rewards, they're much more difficult. The sword says with great rewards come great work. Excited, Woojin comments that this dungeon must be as tough as a rank 2 dungeon. Yanwo steps forward and says not to worry about the boss. Hong In-soo asks if she has a plan for it, and calmly, the girl tells them to take the other path. Seriously, she says she'll handle it and ask the others to deal with the remaining moles. Worried, Hong In-soo tries to yell for Yanwo to wait, but she's already rushed into the cave. He's speechless for a moment, and Yoo-hoo asks if they should follow her. The girl in the group says that since Park Yanwo is skilled, she should be fine, but it's still worrisome to let her go alone. Woojin asks if he can go help her. Worried, they ask what he's talking about and say this is his first time in a dungeon, but he doesn't seem concerned. Yoo-hoo says they should leave the job to Woojin so they can take care of the rest and finish the dungeon quickly. Calming down, Hong In-soo says that even though Yanwo is skilled, she might still need help against a boss. So he says it's okay for Woojin to go after her, but he must retreat as soon as he's in danger. The young man agrees and thanks him. The 3 of them watch as he enters the cave after Yanwo. Blackstone asks why the young man volunteered, and Woojin says Crimson Lotus crossed the line. He's outraged that she's going to finish off the boss he wanted to annihilate. Confused, Blackstone asks if she's just a stronger mole. Woojin says he doesn't understand. When you defeat a boss, you get a reward. There's a chance to get a good item. The system appears and informs him that he received a surprise mission. He must defeat the dungeon boss before everyone else to receive 200 points and a surprise reward. Woojin comments that it's the perfect time for a mission, and the sword agrees the timing was impeccable. He accepts the surprise mission. Excited, Woojin says he's going to complete that mission, even if it means sacrificing himself. Blackstone asks why he's doing this if he already lost his life once. Blackstone says he heard it was a vine mole, a creature he's never seen before. It seems peculiar. Woojin says it hasn't been long since that monster appeared there, and the sword asks if that's why the people before struggled to hunt it. The young man confirms and adds that they're not as strong as they seem. The moles make big moves, so they tire quickly. They're easy to catch if you stall them, therefore their weaknesses haven't been well studied yet. Woojin adds that it's very different from 10 years ahead. Blackstone asks if that's the time he already lived. He says yes, and that there was a well-established strategy, and he is definitely different from his past self. This time, he will become strong. Seriously, Woojin says he's going to bring down the Beak family of the Divine Sword. Something catches his attention. It's Yanwo in front of 2 moles. He gets excited to have finally found her. Blackstone comments that luckily, it seems the boss hasn't been defeated yet. Woojin says they're going to get there first. They run past Yanhwa. Woojin calls her attention. She notices it's the young man from the group. Then she shouts at him and he stops. Angrily, she asks where he's going. Woojin says toward the boss. Yanhwa says she told him she would be the one to take the boss. It's dangerous and he shouldn't have come there. She adds that if he came to offer help, she's refusing. She's fine on her own and doesn't need help. Woojin says he didn't come to help. She's confused and questions what he's talking about and why he's there. The young man says he's going to take the boss himself. Shocked, she says he's unbelievable. Then she says he became a rank 1 user that same day. Besides that, it's his first dungeon. Yanhwa sighs and says she gets it. He wants to show off. She says a dungeon is not a game. He's only wearing casual clothes with no preparation and being deceived by his dreams. Staring at the young man, Yanhwa says he's asking to lose his life. Blackstone asks if the boy is okay. The sword asks Woojin not to mind what the girl just said, but he asks if she wants to bet. Seriously, Yanhwa asks if he wants to bet, and Woojin says he will face the boss first. Smiling, he says that if he defeats the boss in 3 minutes, he wins. Yanhwa is surprised, and he concludes that if he doesn't manage it in that time, she can take it. Right behind them, the giant mole with a mark on its forehead appears, and Woojin says he'll also grant her a wish as an extra reward. The girl is shocked and asks if he was serious when he said 3 minutes. Yanhwa wonders if there's something wrong with that guy's head. She starts thinking that even a rank 3 user would struggle to do that in 3 minutes. Woojin asks if she accepts. The boss has already arrived. In the end, she decides to accept and says that if he defeats it in less than 3 minutes, she'll also grant him a wish. He asks if she promises. Yanhwa is confident he will fail and thinks it's good for her to rest before fighting the boss. Blackstone asks Woojin if he's sure about this, and if 3 minutes isn't too little time, the young man says that time is nothing for the 25-year-old him. 1 minute should do. Blackstone comments that Woojin is a cheater. From afar, the girl watches and thinks she can't understand why the boy would go there to make such a senseless bet. Then she widens her eyes, realizing something shocking. She wonders if all of that was to get her attention. Yanhwa concludes that must be it. Woojin had been looking at her strangely since the beginning. Blackstone observes that out of nowhere, the girl started glaring at him with disgust. Woojin says that's obvious. Since she thought the boss was all hers, she's probably frustrated that he suddenly showed up to interfere. Angrily, he says it doesn't matter. The boss is all his. The sword says she doesn't think that's why the girl is staring. The mole starts to advance. To attack, it uses its vine like a whip, but Woojin dodges quickly. It tries to attack again, and once again, the young man manages to evade. Yanhwa is impressed with his skills. His movements are very fast. The mole lets out a roar. Woojin is bothered by the noise but doesn't lose focus. He starts advancing toward the monster. The boss prepares to strike him with his giant claws. The young man notices it and has started to make very wide movements while fighting. He throws himself backward, dodging, and comments that now it's much easier to avoid the attacks. Then he activates the black wind aura of Rasadum. The enemy's movements are slowed. That makes it much easier for Woojin to hit the giant mole. With a swift motion, he strikes the monster. Blood splatters on the cave ceiling. The boss falls lifeless to the ground. Yanhwa is shocked by what she just witnessed. She asks how Woojin managed that while he swings his sword to clean its blood off. Smiling, he says it only took about 30 seconds to defeat the monster. So he won the bet. The system announces he completed the surprise mission and received the rewards. Worried, Yanhwa asks if he's really a rank 1 swordsman who started that same day. She questions how he managed to defeat a boss. The girl notices the sword has a specific aura and that he used a special technique. Woojin asks her to calm down and ask one thing at a time. Concerned, she asks what happened. Woojin asks if she wants to know how he took down the boss, and Yanhwa says yes. Smiling, he says he'll never tell her. Furious, she says he was the one who told her to ask, and Woojin asks what kind of idiot goes around revealing their secrets. He starts laughing while Yanhwa trembles with rage. Blackstone comments that the young man is very cruel. Woojin crosses his arms and says that since he killed the boss, he's entitled to 1 wish from Yanhwa. He wonders what kind of wish he should make. Taking a deep breath, she says it seems she underestimated the boy. She admits her mistake, and Woojin says he'll save the wish for later. Then he calls her Crimson Lotus of the Storm Formation. Shocked, Yanhwa asks how he knew, and Woojin says he just guessed. The boy says there aren't many warriors out there nowadays, and the girl is left confused about what's going on. She's outraged because it feels like she's losing to that kid. She feels completely defeated. Smiling, Yanhwa says that since he can wish for something from the most prestigious daughter of the Storm Formation, he'd better think carefully about what to ask. Furious, she says he's a beak, but Woojin says he doesn't like the Beak family of the Divine Sword. He keeps smiling and asks if she wants to see him curse the entire Beak family. Blackstone starts to say something, then asks if he's doing this on purpose since he even made her look nervous. The sword tries to say something else, but Woojin cuts in. The girl takes a deep breath and says that it worked and the boss was defeated. Then she comments that she saw something come out of the boss. Blackstone asks if that's the reward he was talking about. Woojin says yes, when a boss dies, it gives rewards like that. An item appears in front of the mole. The young man picks up the ring. Then he says it would be good to have that artifact appraised. Blackstone says he can do it himself. Woojin is shocked and asks if the sword knows how to do that. She takes the ring and says yes. The system reveals that the item is the Ring of the Rocky Mole. It boosts stamina, mentality, and soil resistance. Then Blackstone says that ring is good for increasing your basic stats. Yanhwa congratulates Woojin. Then she says she lost the bet because she was too reckless. Yanhwa says she also didn't like what he said. The young man picks up a mole stone and hands it to Crimson Lotus. Angrily, she takes the item. The rest of the group arrives, impressed that they managed to take down the boss mole so quickly. Hong and Soo tells Yanhwa and Woojin that they did great and did a good job. Tense, the girl tells them to thank Woojin because he did it all by himself. Shocked, Hong In-soo asks if he really defeated the mole alone and how a rookie could do that. Yanhwa takes the chance to leave. She thinks she won't go easy next time. Sometime later on the way back home, Woojin comments that it was pretty easy for a first mission, the people were skilled, and he got a reward. Blackstone asks if Woojin is sure he doesn't need to worry, and he asks Worry about what. Then the sword says Crimson Lotus is going to hunt him, but Woojin says it doesn't matter since he never lied. Worried, Blackstone says he did lie by saying he wasn't a beak. Calmly, Woojin says he never said he wasn't one, just that he hates the beaks. The sword is speechless. Woojin asks if he's wrong. Blackstone says no, but that he's super annoying. As they approach the gate of the Beak family, something startles Woojin. A guy comments that the kid finally arrived. Another says they were waiting for him. The other says they're there to escort him. His name is Jeon Junhyuk. The boy is Moon Joyong, and he's in charge of protecting Woojin. The sword is shocked by the attendants and says Woojin's life is really nice. The young man thinks this is not good at all. He tells the two to take good care of him. Both bow and say it's an honor. Seriously, he says it's already late, so he's going home and will finish the introductions tomorrow. One of them calls out to Woojin. Moon Joyong says that from that day on, the boy's room is on the 8th floor of the Beak Monastery, and Woojin is confused. Then Moon Joyong says the master of the house ordered him to move there. After clearing a dungeon on the same day he registered his aura, the master ordered him to use the ancestral building directly. Woojin is shocked. Then he asks to confirm if he really can go to the Beak Monastery. He says he'll go there quickly and asks the two to wait for him there. Both agree. Woojin enters the room. It's completely empty. He comments that he finally got permission to use the ancestral building. Mocking, the sword asks if he's really that happy and wants to cry. Woojin asks what she's talking about. This is just the beginning, so he needs to pull himself together. Blackstone says, calmly, that it's not time to mourn the past, he should look toward the future. Since they already dealt with Beak Manhwa, that's one less, but above Beak Hojong, there are still 6 more. Blackstone says there are so many of them it's disgusting. Laughing, Woojin asks who even has 8 kids nowadays. Worried, Blackstone asks if Woojin knows either of the 2 men from earlier, and the young man asks which one he means. Blackstone says the one named Moon Joyong. Woojin says he's not sure, but his face is familiar. He was there to observe him. Woojin wouldn't have known that in his past life, but since his sensitivity to mana has increased, he could feel it this time. The mana flow is the same. The young man wonders why his father placed someone from the Shadow Sword Squad to watch over him, and Blackstone is confused. He explains that it's a group of swordsmen who report directly to the Patriarch like elite guards. It seems he's already managed to catch his father's attention. Anyway, they need to get going. Blackstone agrees and says he's curious too. Someone announces the entrance to the Beak Monastery. The boy bows and says Woojin's room is that way. He thanks the 2 guards for their efforts and says since it's their first day, they should rest a bit, both thank him and take their leave. As the 2 are leaving, Woojin calls out to guard Moon Joyong. He asks what the young man needs. Woojin says he doesn't need anything but asks him to keep some distance when observing him. He comments that he needs a bit of privacy too, and Moon Joyong is shocked. Then Woojin walks away and says goodbye to the guard. Blackstone asks if Woojin is using his brain. That was information he just gave away. The young man asks who cares, since the sword will also benefit if his position rises. Blackstone says he thought his father didn't shed blood or tears. Then asks if, by leaving things like that, Woojin won't end up reaping something bad in the future. Seriously, Woojin says not at all. He knows very well what kind of person his father is. After all, something will definitely happen if Moon Joyong reports to his father that he was caught while watching him. The Patriarch asks the guard if that really happened, and he confirms. Woojin knows his father will be pleased with this. Confused, Blackstone says he'll never understand that family. Woojin asks if they should finally open it. He opens the system and talks about the unexpected reward for annihilating the dungeon boss. Blackstone confirms and says since his luck is strong, he's curious too. Woojin gets excited to claim his reward and says it feels like a gambling machine. Several cards appear in front of him again. Blackstone asks which one he's going to choose and tells him to pick carefully. But the boy says the sword doesn't know crap, it has to be a random choice. Woojin comments that he knows he won't get anything good this time. The sword says he might hit the jackpot. The boy looks at the card in front of him and says for random choices, you just have to pick one. Blackstone asks if he's going to select that card. Woojin selects it. He receives a wooden mask. Blackstone is shocked by the reward. The boy holds it and says it's just a mask, but the sword remains surprised. He concludes by saying the mask is still poorly made. Blackstone yells, asking if he's blind, and really said that while looking at that item. The sword can't understand how that ended up going to Woojin. Either the system has no awareness or the boy is extremely lucky. The boy asks why he's so mad. Seriously, Blackstone tells him to look at the item and see how amazing it is. The system reveals that it is the mask of the almighty Demon of Transformation, an assassin from the Kane Empire. With it, you can transform your body, face, and aura. Woojin is shocked because it's a legendary item. Blackstone says the boy finally gets it. Woojin says that according to the description, he can change his body. The sword comments that he can't alter his height even a centimeter. But beyond that, yes, Woojin is surprised that he can even change the color of his aura. He holds the mask and thinks about how he can deceive anyone he wants. Excited, Blackstone asks why he doesn't try the mask, and Woojin agrees. The boy puts on the mask and the system tells him to think of the image he wants to transform into. He thinks of the last person he saw that day, Moon Joyeon. The system asks him to choose his aura color, and he selects light blue. Finally, the transformation happens. Woojin is now identical to Moon Joyeon and comments that this is completely insane. The sword asks him to use his aura to see if the color changed. Woojin agrees and says that's the most important thing. He uses the power, and indeed it's light blue. That mask is truly a unique and insane item. Smiling, Blackstone asks if Woojin still thinks the item is poorly made. He says no and mocks that if he had chosen carefully, he'd never have gotten that item. Then he starts to ask something about the item's description. The boy says the Kane Empire was mentioned, but that's his training method. Woojin asks if they're related. Blackstone reflects on the Kane Empire, then says there's a connection between the two. That's the source of everything he's learning. Woojin is confused about it being the source. The sword says he'll learn about it soon, but for now, he should focus on getting stronger. Blackstone concludes, saying it looks like he won't be using the mask much since he's not planning to commit any crimes and has no reason to hide. Woojin says he thinks he'll have to use the mask the next day. The sword is confused and asks why he would use the mask. The patriarch comments that he heard Woojin went into a dungeon the day before. In front of him, the boy is kneeling and confirms it. Curious, Blackstone asks how he knows the boy went into a dungeon if Moon Joyeon wasn't watching. Woojin comments that his father has eyes everywhere. It's possible the association called him. The father continues, saying he heard something interesting, that Woojin made a bet. The sword is shocked that he knows so much without even leaving the place. Seriously, the old man asks if the boy knows who he made the bet with, and he answers yes. Crimson Lotus, the youngest daughter of the violent Jeok family. Then the patriarch asks if even knowing that he still made a bet with her, Woojin says that was exactly why he decided to do it. He wanted to show the youngest daughter of the Jeok family exactly who the youngest son of the Beak family of the Divine Sword is. The patriarch asks Woojin to explain why he hid his identity as a member of the Beak family. The boy says he never hid it. The others just got confused. Anyway, when she finds out his identity, Woojin wants to see the look on her face. Reflectively, the patriarch comments that it's interesting. Then he says he allows it, and Woojin is confused. He concludes by saying he allows him to use everything that's available, meaning he will walk the path of that family. When necessary, he must use the name of the Beak family of the Divine Sword. Not just the monastery, but now Woojin is authorized to use the Grand Training Hall and the libraries. The boy is in shock and thinks he has finally reached the same starting point as the others, so he thanks the patriarch. As he says he will follow his father, the system appears and says he has a new mission. Woojin is startled. He must choose whether he will walk the path others have walked or create his own. The condition is to reach 25 swordsmanship experience, and he can earn 700 points. The boy wonders why that mission appeared at that exact moment. The sword says it's because he wants the boy to choose. Now he's at the same starting point as the others, but he started from a different place. It's been different since he met Blackstone. That's why he needs to choose. Either he walks the same path as others under the same circumstances, or becomes a swordsman who walks the path of his own creation. Woojin asks what would happen if he accepts the mission but uses a different skill. Calmly, Blackstone says then he will fail the mission. Seriously, the patriarch asks what the boy is doing, not answering him. He asks if the boy refuses, and Woojin says that's not it. Then he thinks that his father, brothers, and sisters are monsters, and he wonders if there's any point for someone with no talent in swordsmanship like him to try to catch up to the rest. Closing his eyes, he concludes no. He needs to walk a different path, so he accepts the mission. The system informs that from now on, he will fail the mission if he uses any skill other than horizontal slash and sword draw. His stats will increase. Woojin asks if it's okay to talk about something. The patriarch tells him to go ahead, and Woojin says he's been experiencing all of this training alone, so he would like to have more time that way. Seriously, the old man says that if he trains with a good instructor, he could become much stronger, and asks if even so, he wants to throw away that chance to be alone. Woojin says yes, and that he wants to train by himself. The father is confused and strokes his beard. Then he says that's fine. The boy thanks him, and the patriarch says he'll have 2 months. After 2 months, he will administer a test, and if he fails, he will be punished. Then he asks if the boy agrees to that condition. Woojin looks his father in the eyes seriously. Finally, he says yes, and that he will prove his point. Meanwhile, Jikyamwa is punching a training bag. She looks furious as she trains. The bag falls to the ground torn. A guy approaches her from behind and says that punching bag is expensive and new. Their father is definitely going to complain that she ruined it. Yamwa says she's not in the mood for talking. The man asks why she's been so cold lately and says he doesn't recommend that she kick him out. He says he has information about the person she's looking for. The girl is shocked. Mocking, the guy says now she's a little too curious. Must be the age when people get interested in love. She gets angry and tells him not to spread any rumors. He says she has quite the temper, then hands her a sheet of paper. Yamwa is confused to see that Beak Woojin is the same age as her. Then something catches her attention. It's the fact that he's from the Beak family of the Divine Sword. The girl rips the paper in rage and screams, asking how the boy dared to deceive her. The man complains that Yamwa tore the paper because it was really hard to get. Then he says family is everything, but since it was the boy's debut, they don't have much information on him. The guy asks how her older brother would feel if she threw away that kind of effort. Yamwa says that if Woojin registers in a dungeon, she wants to be registered in the same one. The man is confused. She concludes by saying she has to make him pay for the shame he made her feel. She didn't know why he got involved, but now she knows he's a piece of crap from the Beak family. Full of rage, she says this time she's going to defeat the boss and asks how a piece of shit like Woojin dares to anger her. The man wonders what the hell happened. Then he calms down. That's the first time she's been interested in someone else. He walks away thinking about how she just had to be interested in Beak Woojin from the Beak family of the Divine Sword. This is going to be interesting. Woojin watches the others training with swords. He comments to Blackstone that they're back again, right where they started. But some things have changed, so he points for Blackstone to look. It's Beak Manhwa standing there. Woojin waves to him and comments that in his past life, he wouldn't even have been able to say hi. Blackstone says that since he didn't respond, it doesn't count as a greeting. The sword asks if Woojin thinks he would greet someone who hits him on the head every time he sees him, then tells him to get into position. Woojin gets into position and agrees, telling them to start. Blackstone says the first thing is to draw and sheathe the sword. Frustrated, the boy asks if he's supposed to keep drawing and sheathing his sword over and over again, and Blackstone says yes. So Woojin says let's just get it over with. The boy draws his sword, but as he does it with too much force, it flies far away. He's shocked. The sword nearly hits Beak Manhwa, who lets out a frightened scream. Then he asks if Woojin really wants to lose his life. The boy gets nervous. Blackstone says that's what you'd expect from the weakest of the Beak family. It just shows how pointless it is for humans to have tools. Woojin says he's being harsh. Manhwa approaches, complaining that a bastard like him can't even keep up with the others and draw a sword properly. He kicks Woojin's sword and yells that he's a piece of crap and doing too much. Then he yells for him to live as he is now instead of messing around, and for Woojin to go rot in the corner. Others comment that it must be a lie that the boy defeated Manhwa with skills like that. Blackstone and Woojin look at each other. They walk away, ignoring everything the others are saying. The sword agrees that Woojin needs to get stronger faster to intimidate those guys. The boy asks what Blackstone is talking about. He smiles and tells the boy to watch, then creates a training object and tells him to trace a line with the sword so that it's perfectly straight. Woojin is confused, but Blackstone says it won't be difficult. At least he'll understand what the art of drawing really is. He grabs the sword's handle and thinks that he's already attacked a vine mole. This should be easy. Then he says they're going to try again. The boy draws the sword, but this time, it doesn't go flying. With a quick motion, he slices the object in front of him. Everyone around is impressed, and the top part of the log flies toward Manhwa. He gets startled, then gets hit, and the others ask if the young master is okay. Blackstone asks what they'll do if something happens to Manhwa, and Woojin says that wasn't his intention. But now he really understands what Blackstone meant and has gotten the hang of it a bit. The sword asks if the boy isn't worried about his older brother. Then Blackstone says they should train a bit more in a dungeon. Woojin asks why complicate things. Everyone around Manhwa is desperate because he passed out, and Woojin says his real-life experience points are right there. If they have something to say, then they should say it to his face. If they dare talk behind his back, then they've already lost their lives. One of them approaches Woojin and asks how he dares do that to Manhwa. Seriously, the boy says if there's a problem, the man should challenge him. Moon Juang watches everything and wonders if the rumor about him hiding his talents was true. Cutting with just one sword strike, it's not possible for someone who started practicing swordsmanship today to do that. Woojin comments that he heard there will be a sparring session in the afternoon and asks if he can join. The man asks how someone who stabilized mana in his belly and only swung his sword once already wants to fight. Then he looks at Manhwa lying on the ground. The boy has a furious look in his eyes. Staring at him, the man thinks it's not a bad idea. Finally, he says that the sparring session he'll lead is to face multiple people and then asks if Woojin thinks he can handle it. The boy says yes. The man says it will begin shortly, so Woojin should wait, and he agrees. Excited, he talks to Blackstone, saying they're setting the stage for him, and asks if the sword remembers everyone who made fun of the boy. All of them are there. Woojin says there's a saying that you gain karma for talking behind people's backs. Blackstone says the boy will ignore him anyway, so he should do whatever he wants. Excited, Woojin says he's going to beat up those bastards a little. The man announces that young master Woojin will participate in that afternoon's duel and asks if anyone there is against it. Everyone says they're fine with it, so the man asks if anyone would like to go against Woojin. Immediately, everyone raises their hands to volunteer. Blackstone says many people were waiting for him, and the boy replies that this is what popularity looks like. He asks the man if he can choose, since everyone wants to fight, and the man agrees. Then he points at the guy in the middle, saying he wants to fight him. The guy bows and says it will be an honor. The man announces that Woojin will fight against apprentice Kim Woonsik. Blackstone asks why he was chosen, and the boy asks if the sword isn't connected to him, and tells Blackstone to take a look through his memories. Kim Woonsik once made Woojin act like a pack mule. He said he was giving him special treatment since no one else would do the same. He also said Woojin didn't count as a member of the Beak family, since they had abandoned that bastard. Blackstone is shocked. Smiling, Woojin asks if the sword now understands his choice. Full of fury, Blackstone tells Woojin to go forward and destroy that piece of crap. He says the boy just needs to swing the sword and he'll handle the rest. Kim Woonsik introduces himself as a rank 2 swordsman and says he's excited to duel with Woojin, who agrees and says he feels the same. Then Woonsik asks why the boy only practices the art of drawing the sword. Mocking, Woojin asks why someone like him wants to know that. The boy says that drawing a sword isn't a useful skill and is dangerous since it leaves you at risk if you fail to land the first attack. Woojin asks what the problem is. Advancing, Kim Woonsik laughs and asks if Woojin really thinks that kind of crap will work against a swordsman like him. The boy visualizes a horizontal purple line, then prepares to draw his sword, and moves the blade along that line. With a single strike, Woojin splits Kim Woonsik's sword in half. Immediately, he drops to his knees. Woojin asks what the boy had said, about being at risk if you miss the first strike. And on the ground, Woonsik begs him to wait. Smiling, Woojin sheaths his sword again. Someone shouts out. Woonsik mutters on the ground, and Woojin says it's a shame he can't strike him in any vital points since it's just training. Crying, Woonsik says he thought this was Woojin's first day practicing sword drawing. Then he screams, asking how he could lose as a rank 2 swordsman. One of the apprentices mocks Woonsik for crying over losing, and the instructor says he lost to someone he always looked down on. Behind them, Woojin says that's enough chit-chat, then asks who's next. The man asks, sweating nervously, if young master wants to go again. Calmly, Woojin says yes, since the training was meant to face multiple opponents. The boy points at someone. It's one of the apprentices who gets startled. Woojin comments that he raised his hand earlier, so he must be next. It's Xiu Yongho. Blackstone is already full of rage and calls Yongho a piece of shit bastard. Apparently, that apprentice beat up Woojin in his previous life and was sucking up to beat Manhwa in this one. The sword is furious and says that in the past life, Yongho beat him a lot and did just like Manhwa, hitting him in places no one could see. Then Blackstone screams for Woojin not to let them leave before beating every single one of them up. Some time passes. Woojin has defeated Yongho, leaving the others shocked. Mocking, the boy says this is way easier than the instructor said it would be. Or maybe his opponents were just way too easy. Smiling, he says it looks like there's only one opponent left for today. Myeonhoon stands watching, confused. Then Woojin says he had already decided to leave him for last from the beginning. He says it's been a while, and points at Myeonhoon. The boy fills with rage. The instructor calls out to young master, but Myeonhoon confidently says he can defeat Woojin. Mocking, the boy says that's unexpected. He thought his brother would run away, but Myeonhoon says there's no reason to flee from a loser like him. As he approaches, Woojin reminds him that he's already been defeated twice, and says there's no need for formalities. Smiling, he tells them to just get started already. Myeonhoon is seething, clenching his teeth. Woojin takes his position. Myeonhoon does the same. Blackstone comments that Woojin's brother has grown a lot since the last time. They definitely have talent. The boy agrees, saying he's pretty young for rank 2. But he knows that his strategies are pretty easy to predict. The two rush at each other. Myeonhoon lands the first blow. Blackstone says he's using footwork and is closer than he seems. Woojin replies that he noticed. He prepares to draw his sword, then hits his brother with a strike, but he manages to defend. Woojin is shocked that Myeonhoon blocked his attack. He says he underestimated Woojin way too much before, so this time he's going to fight for real. Myeonhoon uses his aura to throw Woojin off balance. The boy is outraged that his brother is using aura just to win. Myeonhoon stomps hard on the ground and says that this time he needs to teach a lesson. So Woojin stops acting like a little shit again. The sword says that looks a bit dangerous. While defending, Woojin responds that he knows that. Myeonhoon mocks him, saying his facial expression is priceless. Then says he heard he made a bet with their father, and he'll train his own Shiwei to get strong. He adds it's great that he'll be punished if he loses the bet. Seriously, Woojin asks what his brother means by that. Then Myeonhoon smiles and says there's no chance I'll succeed. Blackstone yells for Woojin to just focus on the path of the sword line. They keep fighting. Blackstone says Woojin is doing well, but the boy says his brother doesn't even give him time to draw his sword. Myeonhoon glares at him furiously. In one swift move, he knocks Woojin's sword far away. Desperate, Blackstone yells for the boy not to falter and to use his aura, then says he can retrieve his sword, but Woojin gets into a combat stance and says it's not over yet. The system activates Rasadum's aura trait, Black Wind. Myeonhoon is furious, but Woojin says he used his aura first, so this is the fairest thing to do. They begin charging at each other again. Woojin recovers his sword and dodges his brother. Myeonhoon is shocked by those movements. Quickly, the boy draws his sword. Myeonhoon stares at him, frozen. Woojin is panting. His brother was hit by the final blow. Then he falls to the ground, defeated. The instructor is in total shock. Blackstone approaches and asks if Woojin is okay. He begins to say, that was a close call, his hand is shaking. He pretended to be confident but really thought he would lose. The sword says that definitely this time felt he wasn't ordinary. His movements were light and precise. It underestimated him last time, but he's going to become a formidable skill user. Woojin says everyone in the family has talent. The instructor steps forward, saying he was honestly surprised. There's no right way to get strong, but he forgot that for a moment. Then he apologizes and says he now perfectly understands the young master's level. He's even better than expected. Woojin is surprised, but then smiles and thanks him, saying they should leave the rest for the next day. The instructor is shocked that he wants to do that exercise the next day too. Woojin says he was the one who said training shouldn't stop regardless of the result. Then Woojin says he should fight all the capable trainees. The instructor is speechless, but the boy smiles and says they'll see each other tomorrow. He starts walking away, but the system appears. Woojin and Blackstone are surprised. It's a notification that he completely crushed the rival's will to train, so he's been rewarded with 100 points. Woojin asks if there was a mission like that. Blackstone smiles and says he thinks he knows what that means, then asks if Woojin remembers when he got extra points for surprising him. The boy is impressed, and the sword concludes he must have earned it for similar reasons. Smiling, Woojin says he thinks he can make good use of that and use it smartly. Someone calls out to him. Someone is running toward Woojin, and the boy asks what's so urgent. The man hands him an envelope and says the administrative branch asked him to deliver it. Woojin takes the envelope confused. Blackstone asks what an administrative branch is. The boy explains that they're in charge of the administrative affairs of the Divine Sword Beak family, handling mission requests and all family documents. Blackstone says so it's basically like a company, and Woojin says they're a huge family, after all. He opens the envelope and wonders what the administrative branch could want from him. They've never summoned him, not even for personal reasons. It's a requisition document, a document that requests his cooperation on a mission. The man who delivered the envelope is Jeon Junhyuk, who says the document doesn't come directly from the administrative branch, but rather from outside the family, from the association. Woojin questions why he's receiving it through the administrative branch then. Junhyuk explains it's because he never checks his phone. The boy realizes what's going on, and Blackstone asks if he's not supposed to be Gen Z. His phone was left in his room. Woojin hasn't touched it since registering with the association, so he didn't even think of it. Junhyuk tells him to return now. The administrative branch has prepared mission details and other materials for him. Woojin agrees and says his training is done anyway, that he remembers something, and turns to the trainees sitting on the ground. Smiling, he tells everyone there to recover quickly, because they'll have to duel again sometime. Everyone is shocked. Woojin grabs his phone. He notices it's almost out of battery and says that's probably why he hasn't been getting notifications. Blackstone asks if he doesn't have any friends to text him, and Woojin replies that the sword also only has him to talk to. That mocks, saying it's funny to hear that from someone who also doesn't have friends. Woojin asks if Blackstone wasn't stuck in the dark for 500 years, and the sword agrees. Then apologizes for asking that question. Woojin says it's okay. Opening the phone, he tells them to just see what that request is. It's a mission requested by Siu Ina and recommended by Hong In-soo for him to go to Legion District 1 to collect resources. Blackstone asks what a Legion District is, and Woojin answers that it's a place where monsters keep showing up. It's different from the dungeon he went to last time because those disappear. The sword comments that it must be popular then, and asks if it's not the perfect place to train since the monsters never stop appearing. Woojin says it's not as popular as Blackstone thinks. The Legion District doesn't give stones, mana, or items in general. Blackstone asks if it's unpopular due to the lack of rewards. The sword says that since people make money by defeating monsters, it makes sense they prefer dungeons. Woojin says the name of the one who recommended him is familiar, Hong In-soo. Blackstone says it's the man from the dungeon they went to. The boy wonders if he's helping him even though he said he hated the Beak family. Blackstone mocks, saying he should insult his family more and see if he gets more gifts. Laughing, Woojin says that if he didn't always have an informant nearby, he'd insult the family himself. The sword asks why that Siu Ina person is going to that place. Then Woojin is shocked that she's the one who made the request and wonders if that incident happened there. Blackstone is confused. The boy explains that she's the only daughter of the Arcane Guild Master, a guild that competes for the first and second spot in the industry. They make high-quality items. But Siu Ina entered the Legion District and ended up losing her life. All the other ability users also died, and the Arcane Guild searched everywhere for a criminal. Blackstone says then he shouldn't go. It sounds dangerous. The boy thinks for a moment and reflects that maybe he can save the group. Seriously, Blackstone says he doesn't even know what's going to happen. Woojin says it's not just because of Siu Ina. He's also thinking about Hong In-soo. Since he's the one who recommended him, he'll also be on the mission. Smiling, Woojin says he was a little surprised since he was so kind. It's a shame for someone like him to lose his life. Blackstone smiles and says he figured Woojin would say something like that. Swordsmen seem to help each other. The boy is surprised. The system informs that a new mission has appeared. He has the opportunity to save those at risk of dying. His 5 senses will be enhanced during the mission, and he will receive 400 points and increased lickability. Blackstone says there are too many variables in that mission, so it could be dangerous. Woojin smiles and says he guesses he has no other choice. He'll have to use a cheat key then. Sometime later, already on the way to the mission, Blackstone asks what cheat key the boy is going to use. Woojin complains and says he told the sword not to come unless he was in an extremely dangerous situation. Blackstone agrees but asks why he brought Moon Joy on. Woojin says it's better than dying. But it's not like he went unprepared. He took everything he could from the Beak family's weapon storage. Hong In-soo approaches Woojin and asks if he wants to see something cool, and the boy is confused. Then he tells him to look at someone and asks if he knows who it is. It's the girl from the Vine Mold dungeon. They didn't invite her, but she came anyway. Jiaqianwo looks at them. Blackstone asks why that woman is there, and Woojin wonders the same. She walks up to them. Woojin thinks about how Jiaqianwo wasn't part of that mission in his past life. She stayed alive until the very end. Yanwo stops right in front of the boy and says she knew Beak Woojin would be there. Smiling, she says it's a big coincidence that they ran into each other in that place. Woojin agrees nervously. Tripping over his words, he asks what brings her there. Turning away, the girl says she's not foolish enough to say, and asks who goes around telling people that kind of thing. Blackstone asks if there's any reason she's there, and Woojin says no and doesn't know why she's acting like that. Someone approaches and says they'll explain the mission. Since not everyone likes going to the Legion District, she thanks everyone for being there. The woman introduces herself as Siu Ina. Hong In-soo clears his throat, then says he heard she's there for exploration, and asks what she's looking for. Smiling, the girl says that in the Legion District, something called thorny black grass occasionally appears. She's there to find it. Blackstone asks if that's related to the murder case from his past life, and Woojin says no. Thorny black grass is something people cultivated in his past life too, and it's not dangerous. He starts observing who's there. Hong In-soo, Jiaqianwo, Siu Ina, and a requested ability user. Blackstone says there's no one strong enough to cause problems, and Woojin agrees. Then Hong In-soo tells them to move out. Woojin comments that they'll only find out what happens once they're inside, and Blackstone tells him not to worry. Woojin takes a deep breath. They move forward and begin entering a portal. Right behind Woojin is Yanhwa. Siu Ina tells them to start there. She mentions that they don't know when the monsters will appear, so they should always be ready. Everyone agrees. Hong In-soo says 2 people should stand guard with Siu Ina, and someone else should be on watch with him. Woojin agrees. The group begins positioning themselves. Woojin takes another deep breath. Blackstone calls to him, then says he thinks he knows why the murder happened. The boy is shocked and calls Yanhwa's attention. The sword points upward and asks if the boy can see it too. It's a countdown timer until the boss appears. Woojin asks what that is, and Blackstone says he already mentioned he has the judgment ability. The boy asks if that information is visible because of the sword's ability, and it confirms. Then Blackstone asks if Woojin doesn't think the massacre could have happened because of a boss appearance. Woojin says he doesn't think that's it, and the sword asks why. The team leader is Hong In-soo. He doesn't have the best abilities, but he's very experienced. He's been an ability user for decades. He wouldn't let everyone die to a surprise boss. He'd tell them all to flee immediately. And a monster from the Legion district can't go beyond its borders. Even if a strong boss appeared, all you need to do is run, so at least one person would have made it out alive. Blackstone says that based on what the boy is saying, it would be strange for everyone to die from the boss. Woojin says that couldn't have been the only cause. Someone approaches. It's a man who comments that they have visitors there. He removes his hat and gives a polite greeting, then mentions it's rare to see guard missions happening around there. Hong In-soo greets him back and calmly says they're there to collect thorny black grass. The man is surprised. He asks if those things grow around there, and Hong In-soo says it's pretty rare, so he's not too sure either. Passing by, the man tells them to be careful since he's going to move on ahead. Hong In-soo says goodbye. Woojin and Blackstone watch everything. The sword says the guy is strong. Woojin says he felt it too. Judging by his standards, he's at least rank 4 and he uses axes. The countdown until the boss appears ends. Blackstone says it's starting and Woojin wonders what it's going to be. The sky turns red. Hong In-soo comments on the sky and Jik Yanhwa asks what's happening all of a sudden. A monster appears. Everyone is surprised by the boss's sudden appearance. It's a berserker goblin. Hong In-soo is frightened by the sudden appearance of that boss. Then he yells for them to protect Siu Ina for now. She asks if they can defeat the boss and whether it wouldn't be better to run. But Hong In-soo tells her not to worry. The berserker goblin is intimidating, but not that strong. And since they have Yanhwa and Woojin, it won't be hard to defeat it. Yanhwa says she's already defeated a goblin like that and asks Siu Ina to stay out of the danger zone. Siu Ina comments that it's a relief. Then she wishes Yanhwa good luck and Woojin thinks that now everything is clear. Blackstone asks if that means Siu Ina's death wasn't caused by the boss, and Woojin confirms. The goblin approaches. It prepares to attack. Woojin tells the sword that one thing he's sure of. The people who were part of that requisition died after this. The goblin strikes Hong In-soo, who defends himself with his sword. He exerts a lot of strength to protect himself. The creature stares him down. Then the man shouts for the brute to take action. Yanhwa gets ready to break its stance. She charges at the monster, then stops in front of it and delivers a blow. The punch hits the boss squarely. It lets out a cry of pain and drops to its knees. Woojin approaches and Yanhwa tells him to stay out of the way. The boy is startled. The goblin roars. Its roar unleashes a wave of power that hits all of them. Yanhwa yells that it's roaring and Hong In-soo comments that it's about to go berserk. The monster charges, preparing to strike. It hits Hong In-soo again. This time he's thrown far away. Worried, Yanhwa holds him and shouts that the monster is stronger than she thought. The man says it's a boss after all. Serious, she says this won't work. If they take too long, more monsters will appear. She'll confront it head on and run over it. Turning to Woojin, she says he can help her. But the boy is already facing the monster, which glares at him. The girl yells, asking why he's there. Woojin prepares to draw his sword. He thinks she shouldn't be making so much noise like that. Blackstone asks if she's doing it on purpose, and the boy replies that she's seriously underestimating a boss. The goblin attacks Woojin, and Yanhwa shouts that even if he knows monsters well, facing a berserker alone is too much. The creature tries to hit Woojin, but he dodges. As the monster charges to attack him and Yanhwa tries to help, Woojin strikes. The boy is serious. The girl wonders how he can be that fast. He finishes his move, splattering blood all around. Then sheathes his sword. Approaching, Yanhwa asks what sword technique that was. Woojin asks if she means drawing the sword. Outraged, she asks how he can have that power and speed, and when he learned that, Hong In-soo laughs and says he was surprised too because the boy was fast, then concludes that the boy is amazing. He even defeated the last dungeon boss by himself. The girl is filled with rage while the leader says the boy is quite impressive for someone young. Yanhwa says it's very strange for him to have gotten that good so quickly. Woojin asks if she wants to know the answer to that. Stammering, she says it's not like she wants to know, but if he wants to tell, she'll listen. Then Woojin says he's not dumb enough to reveal his secrets. She gets angry and yells that he's a bastard while the boy bursts out laughing. Siu Ina yells for them to wait. She widens her eyes and says she found it. The plant is right next to the goblin, and someone says the girl's going to get covered in blood. But the girl doesn't seem to care and is amazed. It's thorny black grass. Hong In-soo gets excited, then says the requisition is complete. Siu Ina agrees and says even though it was faster than expected, they did a good job. One of the group members is surprised to see something. It's an item the boss dropped. Picking it up and smiling, Hong says it looks like they're going to have a barbecue dinner together. He's excited because they got thorny black grass and an item from an easy boss. Siu Ina comments that she didn't expect that either. Woojin is confused and wonders if the murder will happen when they try to leave. Someone calls out to the boy, it's Moon Joyong. He tells Woojin to get out of there because something is approaching from behind. Moon Jueyong fires his weapon, then deflects the strike that was about to hit him, startling everyone. An axe hits the tree. Siu Ina asks where that axe came from. Hong Yin-soo realizes whose axe it is. It's from the same old man they encountered earlier. Everyone stares in the direction the axe came from. He begins to approach and asks if Woojin dodged it. Woojin realizes then that it was him. Smiling, the old man says he'll make sure to land the hit this time. He's the one responsible for Siu Ina's murder. Hong Yin-soo asks why he's attacking them. The man says it's for the grass and the bracelet the boss dropped. Those are reason enough. He comments that he only came back as a precaution but didn't expect to find something so good. Woojin asks who he is. The man introduces himself as Sejinwoo. The boy is stunned and Yanhwa asks if Woojin knows him. Then Hong In-soo says he's heard that name. He's a lunatic who goes around annihilating people he doesn't like for no reason. Siu Ina asks if he's dangerous. Making a hand gesture, Sejinwoo says he has a reason. It's about that. Moon Jueyong says he's a rank 4 user and can handle it, but Woojin responds that the man should be his shadow and not get involved. Then he asks what his father would say if he helped him at that moment. Woojin says he's already grateful that he deflected the axe. Worried, Moon Jueyong says that if something goes wrong, he'll be annihilated. Woojin smiles and says he won't lose his life. Then he prepares to draw his sword. The man stands there with both of his axes, smiling. Getting ready to fight, Woojin says he didn't come all this way to die a meaningless death. Worried, Moon Jueyong says that if he proves dangerous, he'll intervene without hesitation. Woojin says he likes that side of him. Seriously, the boy says he needed a training dummy anyway, and no one would complain if he took out trash like that guy. He wants to see what Sejinwoo's got. The old man grins, excited. Then Yanhwa yells, asking if Woojin is crazy and what he's doing. He tells her to protect the others. He'll take care of that lunatic. But Yanhwa doesn't accept it and says Woojin is only rank 1. There's no way he can fight someone like that. But the boy is determined. If he does nothing, everyone there will be annihilated. He says he's there to save everyone, so she should cooperate. Yanhwa is confused. Sejinwoo starts laughing loudly, then shouts that Woojin is really funny. He charges. Getting close to Woojin, he says he's going to have some fun with the boy. The boy calls for the Black Wind. The system announces that Rasum's aura, Black Wind, has been activated. Sejinwoo is charging with his axe, but the boy manages to defend in time using his power. Impressed, the man asks how Woojin blocked the attack. He grips the axe tightly and says that even so, Woojin is just a child, and he shouts that he'll cut off his legs first. He hits the boy, but Woojin defends again. Blackstone yells for him not to worry because he can read the bastard's attacks with his aura. The boy agrees. He's serious, while Sejinwoo is furious. The man shouts that he'll tear the boy's limbs off. Their battle unleashes massive power. The man's axe strikes Woojin's sword. It shatters and the boy is in despair. Moon Jueyong and Yanhwa are worried about the boy. The old man is impressed, then smiles and says the kid really wants to be annihilated. He raises his arm and says fine. Hell grant Woojin's wish. Blackstone quickly moves in and yells for his master to use him, transforming into a dagger. He has to do it quickly. The sword tells him to shout, "Delicate Night," then he'll be able to use it. Furious, Woojin shouts, "Delicate Night." The system announces he has unlocked Blackstone's first sword, Delicate Night of Massacre. Sejinwoo is surprised. A single strike with the Blackstone dagger unleashes a massive wind. Blood begins to drip from Woojin's nose. He thinks his aura is almost completely gone. The boy is worried. He can't lose consciousness just yet. With effort, he stays on his feet. Then he shouts for Moon Jueyong. The man kneels beside him and asks what his young master needs. Woojin asks him to take care of the others until they can safely leave the rift. Moon Jueyong says he understands the order. The boy smiles and says it's different from the past. He starts to lose consciousness. Everyone is safe. Woojin collapses to the ground unconscious and Yanhwa runs toward him. Siu and Hong follow, asking if he's okay. Night falls. The boy rushes in desperately, calling for director Lee Yangyan. The man asks what's going on and why the boy is so agitated. Then the boy says that Sejinwoo has died. Removing the book from his face, Lee Yangyan asks where that bastard was. Then the boy says he had been hiding in the Legion territory. The man slaps his own face and says that's why they couldn't find him. They couldn't possibly map that entire area. It would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Sweating, the boy says it's kind of crazy who ended up finding him. Lee Yangyan asks who it was, and he replies that it was Beek Woojin, the youngest son of the Beek family of the Divine Sword. Calmly, the man says he should have guessed it would be someone from that infamous house. Then he suddenly reacts and asks if it was really the youngest son. Slamming the table, he asks if the boy isn't just 10 years old or something, since Beek Manhwa is 17. The boy confirms that Woojin is only 15. Getting up, Lee Yangyun tells the boy Hyosub to say something that makes sense. He leans on the boy and says they should think it through together. Hyosub heard rumors that the 15-year-old son of the Beek family is now a rank 1 swordsman. It makes no sense at all for a 15-year-old boy to take down a rank 4 criminal. The boy shouts that it's true, and that he was surprised too. Even Juk Yamua from the Violent Jiok family and Siu Ina from the Arcana Guild gave their testimonies. Letting go of him, Lee Yangyun is confused, then asks how Woojin managed to stop him. Hyosub says he advanced forward with his sword drawing technique and used his sword K. The man kicks him and yells that it makes no sense at all. Taking a deep breath, Lee Yangyun says that if it's true, that means the most renowned genius in the history of the Beek family of the Divine Sword has just appeared. Everything is purple and Woojin wonders if it's a dream. He sees a man from behind and wonders who he is. Even though it's the first time he's seeing him, he feels something familiar. Like when he was using Blackstone after it transformed into a sword and slashing with delicate night. He can feel that they are incredibly powerful. Suddenly, Woojin wakes up startled and someone asks if the weakling is just now waking up. It's Blackstone. Woojin asks where he is and the sword says he's in his room. Moon Joyeon brought him there after he fainted. He lost consciousness for 2 days because he used delicate night. Woojin is shocked that 2 days have passed. Jang Junhyuk enters the room excitedly and calls for the young master. He's relieved that Woojin has woken up. The boy asks if the man has been taking care of him all this time. Calmly, Jang Junhyuk confirms and asks how Woojin's body is feeling. The boy says that aside from a headache, he feels fine. Then the bodyguard says he fainted from overusing aura and mentioned he might have headaches. He also said his condition isn't that bad, so he should recover soon. Woojin thanks Jang Junhyuk for being concerned about him all this time. Smiling, the man says he was worried, but there were people even more worried than him. Woojin is confused. Jang Junhyuk says they're waiting outside today too, and asks if the boy wants them to come in. The boy is confused that they've been there for days. Then Jang Junhyuk shouts that the two outside can come in. The door opens. Woojin is confused. It's Jiuk Yanwei and Siu Ina. Siu Ina says they wanted to thank him personally. They're very grateful that he saved their lives. Woojin is confused and Yanhwa says that if it weren't for him, they would have died there. They didn't even react to the axe. It was Woojin who saved them all. Siu Ina says she's saying this as a direct descendant of the Arcana Guild. She kneels and says she'll never forget the debt she owes him. Woojin gets worried and gets out of bed. He shouts that she doesn't need to do that. She was the one who hired him. The girl says she learned that the criminal was extremely dangerous and considering where they were if they had died, they would have been found much later. If it weren't for Woojin, she wouldn't be there. Yanhwa says that apparently more than 10 deaths were caused by the Suh families in Wu. That number could have increased by 5 this time. But Woojin stopped him. He stopped that atrocity and that piece of human trash. Woojin is stunned. He stopped Suh in Wu. Siu Ina stands up and says she has one more thing to tell the boy. Thanks to him, she managed to get the grass. The boy is relieved and happy that she was able to take the grass safely. Smiling, she says she really needed that grass for what she's trying to do. He stands up and asks what she's doing. Siu Ina replies that it's a secret, but he'll be the first to know when it's ready. The girl looks back. A bodyguard enters and she says it's only fair that she shows her gratitude to the person who saved her life. Woojin says she doesn't have to, he's just happy everyone is safe, and he didn't do it to get something in return. She says that even so, his sword broke. So she'd like to give him a sword as a token of her gratitude. The boy is shocked. It's the sword of the Radiant Link. It makes light connect and merge. Siu Ina says that since he was able to use the sword's energy, that weapon will be useful too. It amplifies the sword energy's power. Woojin says he knows that sword is one of the most notorious and famous ones, and he asks if it's really okay for her to give something so precious to him. The girl says her own father asked her to give it to him, so it's okay. She also says she'll get in trouble if he doesn't accept it, so he should take it gladly. Woojin is speechless, but accepts the gift. Smiling widely, he says he has no choice but to accept. Blackstone mocks him, saying he only refused out of politeness. Then Siu Ina leaves and says he should rest a little more. She needs to go now, and she probably won't be able to leave for a while. The boy is confused. Smiling, she says she went to the Legion district without telling anyone, so she's grounded for it. They'd only let her out to meet him. Woojin says that makes sense, since it was a major incident. The girl smiles at Woojin again and says they'll meet again when she's no longer grounded. She leaves and Blackstone says at least that family protects their kids. If it were the Beak family, they wouldn't care. Woojin says he knows. Jiuk Yanhwa stares at the boy. Then she holds out a bracelet and says that's her gift of gratitude. It's the boss's bracelet, of course. It should be his. Besides that, there's also a box with something her brother sent that will help Woojin recover. Woojin takes the gifts and thanks her, surprised. Serious, the girl asks if she can ask something unrelated to all this. The boy agrees and she asks why he lied. He's confused. Then the girl says he's a direct descendant of the Beak family of the Divine Sword. She wants to know why he said he wasn't. Woojin says he doesn't remember saying that. Angry, she says he said he hates the Beak family. Mocking, Woojin says that doesn't mean he's not one of them, and if she wants, he can insult them even more. Woojin says the Beak family of the Divine Sword is just a place full of scumbags, a family full of horrible people. Jiuk Yanhwa thinks he's a really strange guy, and smiling, Woojin says she can insult them as much as she wants. She thought he was a little weird, but he's completely insane. Then she turns and says it's fine, she already gave what she needed to, and since he seems okay, she's leaving. Woojin thanks her for the gift. Smiling, he says he'll use it well. Before leaving, she says she won't lose next time. She's going to catch up to him. Woojin says he doesn't know what there is to win or lose, but she can do as she likes. Slamming the door angrily, she says he's a bastard. The system announces it's calculating the mission rewards. Friendship with Jiuk Yanhwa increased as well as with Hong In-soo and Siu Ina, and he was rewarded with 400 points. The mission is complete. Woojin says he was honestly really worried, but he's grateful everything ended well. Blackstone comments that the boy pretended a lot like he wasn't worried. He says it's impossible not to be worried with an axe flying toward you. He honestly thought it was the end when the dagger broke. The sword laughs. Smiling, Blackstone says he did well and even earned bonus points. Wu Jun says this bonus point thing, it seems like he gets them when he impresses people. Blackstone confirms and says he doesn't know why only he has that. The boy is confused and the sword explains that none of its former owners had a special trait like that one. It seems the system favors him. Wu Jun comments that he's not going to complain about that favoritism. Stretching, he wonders if he should really start training, and the sword asks if he seriously wants to train right after waking up. The system appears, announcing his title, Apprentice Who Ignores the Trainer. His recovery is quintupled, and he won't get injured even with intense training. Moon Jueong greets the patriarch. The old man comments that he heard something interesting happen and asks the man to report what he saw in the Legion district. He agrees. Moon Jueong says the young master received a request from Siu Ina of the Arcana Guild to act as a guard in the Legion district. However, during the mission, Sejunu appeared, a rank 4 criminal whose goals were the thorny black grass and the boss's rewards, so he ambushed the young master and his group. The patriarch becomes interested and asks the man to continue. Moon Jueong says that Sejunwoo's usual weapon is a sword, but he was using axes to conceal his identity as he was being hunted. Then the patriarch asks if Wu Jun won against him. The man says yes, the young master blocked an attack with a black aura he had never seen before. The old man asks if he's talking about sword energy, and Moon Jueong says he's not sure. He asks if Wu Jun's aura was the same as the one he showed earlier. Then the man says it's true that there was a black aura in the master's dagger, but it was different from any sword energy he's ever seen. The patriarch asks if it was more powerful than sword energy, and Moon Jueong says that he withstood Sejunwoo's full power attacks. So yes, definitely. The old man says he'll never be bored thanks to him, knowing that the Jiuk family and Arcana Guild are indebted to his youngest. Nothing could be better. Moon is startled that the patriarch is interested in Wu Jun. Then he asks how much time is left until the test, and the patriarch says 22 days. He already decided what the test will be, and asked to have Wu Jun brought to him. Blackstone says that from that day on, there are 2 things Wu Jun needs to do. Wu Jun is confused. The sword says he said he wanted to follow his own path as a swordsman. Yawning, Wu Jun agrees and says he doesn't like the instructor. Blackstone agrees and says that from now on, he needs to practice putting his will into his swordsmanship. Even if he only slashes once, it has to have purpose. Wu Jun thinks about what it means to put will into swordsmanship. Blackstone says a sword without will is as good as a motionless sword. The second thing is footwork. Wu Jun says he's learning his family's movement method. The sword says it's seen him use that technique and knows it was passed down by the Beak family. It's a type of movement where you move with your torso and hurl yourself forward. It's decent, but it doesn't suit Wu Jun's style. All the Beak family's sword techniques are limited. The boy is shocked by that, then says he thinks he understands what Blackstone means. The sword art he's learning gives him a lot of freedom so he can use it from any position, but the Beak family's techniques are too strict. He can use them in any situation, but he has to repeat them until the chosen sword form is ingrained. That's why they're limited. That's why it doesn't suit him. Blackstone agrees and says the boy understood faster than expected. If Wu Jun had learned a movement that suited him, he could have dodged the axe when his blade broke. Wu Jun agrees that he couldn't move his feet at that moment. Blackstone moves and says now it'll teach him the proper footwork. Its name is Unknown Footwork, and you create it as your movements flow. First, align your legs with shoulder width. It doesn't matter which foot takes the first step, but you have to remember where your sword needs to land. Wu Jun thinks his steps are getting lighter. There are a few prescribed moves, but between them, all irregular movements connect to each other. That means no matter where he is, it's possible to attack with a sword draw. The boy begins drawing his weapon and hits the target multiple times. This is the unknown footwork. Wu Jun tells Blackstone that just like it said, that movement can be used in any situation. The sword smiles and says it's a footwork technique he can alter however he wants. That means only he can create it. The boy gets excited. It's footwork he can create while evolving. Moon Jueong calls for the young master. He gets serious and says he has something to tell Wu Jun. He received orders to take him immediately. The boy gets excited. It looks like the time has come. He decided on the test. In the main hall, Wu Jun kneels and greets the patriarch, who tells him to rise. As expected of him, his son almost lost his life, but the old man doesn't even care. The patriarch says the boy must know why he was called there. Wu Jun says the old man mentioned 2 months ago that he would give him a test. Smiling, the old man says he will get straight to the point and tell him about the test. Then he asks someone to come in. A man stands in front of Wu Jun. He bows and greets the patriarch. The boy is surprised that that bastard is his opponent in the test. The patriarch says that in 3 weeks there will be a duel, and the man must use only rank 3 aura to duel against Wu Jun. Standing before him is Beak Hojong. The patriarch says Wu Jun's test will be to defeat his older brother and asks if the boy can do it. Wu Jun says he will. Then the old man says that if Hojong uses aura above rank 3, he will automatically lose. Smiling, he bows and agrees with the patriarch. He says then he will ask a question, and ask Beak Wu Jun what sword aura he used in his mission. He heard that he cut Sejunwoo with a single blow from that aura. Wu Jun gets nervous and says he can't tell. The patriarch starts to get angry. He stands up furious and yells, asking what Wu Jun just said to him. The boy says that since they have a bet, he can't tell. The old man asks about the bet. Wu Jun says he thought he had expectations for him since he said he would decide the test after seeing what he could do. That's why he accepted the test as a bet between them. He can't tell the opponent what weapon he has. The patriarch starts laughing out loud, then says that's impertinent and he wants to see who will win that bet. Hojong and Wu Jun leave, and the older brother says he didn't imagine he'd have the chance to beat up the youngest so soon. Wu Jun smiles and says he didn't imagine either that an opportunity to end Hojong would come so soon. Angrily, Angrily, the older brother says he has a huge talent for making others want to end him. He really will have to win that duel. If he loses the bet, he will truly be annihilated. As he leaves, Woojin says the duel isn't that day, so Hojong can loosen up a bit. He says goodbye and says he'll see his brother later. Woojin comments that he knew it would be hard, but fighting Beak Hojong is too much. Blackstone asks if he doesn't have a plan. The boy replies no. The sword says the patriarch told him to use only rank 3 aura. If Sejinwoo was rank 4, then his brother should be easier. Woojin says Hojong is stronger. His green aura is really fast. He's not only fast, but his sword handling is precise, and he changes a lot too. So they call him the Sword of the Falling Flower. Besides, Beak Hojong hated him for no apparent reason in his past life. He took everything the boy had and, in the end, expelled him. So no matter what happens, Woojin is determined to win that duel. Tense, he asks if Blackstone has any idea how he can do that, and he replies that he can blow up the whole training space with the delicate knight, and tells the boy to practice what he already taught to put Woojin's will into the sword. The boy says that's very difficult. Blackstone asks what will the boy wants to put into the sword, and he replies just to be strong and fast. Woojin comments that a super strong power is the best way to win, and Blackstone seems disappointed. The sword says the boy is a bastard because even one will is hard, but he wants 2, so he asks him to choose, but Woojin tries to argue. Blackstone sighs and says the boy only does what he wants, so he should close his eyes and imagine. He must put his will into it. He needs to imagine himself in a fight against Beak Hojong. Woojin opens his eyes, startled. Something magical happens. Smiling, Blackstone says it looks like he's getting the hang of it. That beginning wasn't bad. 2 weeks pass, and in the tournament hall of the Beak family of the Divine Sword, several people gather. All the brothers are there to watch. One of the trainees asks if there's any reason for that duel, and the trainer says that even though Woojin defeated someone of rank 4, beating Hojong is impossible. The eldest sister complains, saying it's a waste of time. The older brother wonders what their father is thinking. Excited, Beak Menghum thinks Woojin should be annihilated soon. Someone begins to speak. Both participants enter before the duel starts. The participants will be Beak Hojong and Beak Woojin. The older brother says the boy just dug his own grave, but he seems confident and says they haven't even started yet. Woojin says Hojong can chatter after the duel is over. Then he smiles and asks if his brother isn't confident. Angrily, Hojong asks if the boy is trying to end his life, and the voice announces that the patriarch is entering. The old man climbs the stairs. As soon as he enters, everyone kneels and greets him. He says he is hosting that duel as patriarch. It is a duel between swordsmen of different ranks, but will have a great impact on the others as well. Therefore, the duel will continue until one can no longer fight, and he will allow any kind of attack. Sitting down, the patriarch shouts for the duel to begin. A man lifts a heavy object and strikes it against a drum, echoing a sound. Hojong asks if Woojin knows the meaning behind an official duel and says it looks like the younger brother will be expelled from the Beak Monastery after a short time. Woojin, serious, calls for the Black Wind. The system informs that he has activated his Razadum aura trait, Black Wind. Mocking, Hojong talks about the boy's black aura and says it's the first time he's seen it since the manifestation ceremony. Then tells the boy not to lose too fast or it'll be boring, Woojin says for them to begin. Woojin gets ready to draw his sword. Hojong raises his to attack him. Then the older brother asks what the boy is doing. Woojin is startled. It seems the Black Wind's slowdown effect has already taken place. Even so, his brother is still fast. They clash swords, and Hojong asks if the boy thought he could beat him with just that. Positioning himself, he says that even if he doesn't use a rank 3 aura, Woojin won't be a match for him. Then he starts advancing. The boy dodges, and the older brother is impressed. Angrily, Woojin shouts that Hojong is too noisy as he strikes. With his sword, the older brother defends himself. Blackstone tells Woojin to get closer using the unknown footwork. The way things are going, it won't end, the boy agrees. Furious, Hojong strikes and yells that the boy is a rude brat. The sword says Woojin's footwork still isn't stable, but if he's aware of his range and dodges, then it's possible. Hojong launches another strike. This time he hits the boy's face, leaving a cut. Woojin thinks it will be hard for his brother to react if he moves unpredictably. Then he starts moving. His feet shift. Hojong starts getting tense. Woojin appears behind him and says he got him. The man is startled. Then Woojin hits him with an elbow strike. Furious, Hojong shouts that Woojin is a bastard. The boy gets into position and thinks it's now time for the sword draw. Activating his green aura, Hojong says playtime is over. Now he will fight seriously. Defending himself, Woojin thinks his brother is finally using the aura. Hojong is full of rage and starts advancing. Woojin defends the attack, but is hit in different spots, cutting his clothes and skin. The boy complains that it makes it hard to get close to him. Blackstone says he's only rank 3, but still very intimidating. The only way to win this is to stop him from using the falling flower sword. Woojin says he knows that. He keeps advancing, and Blackstone says he's doing well. He's trained his body and strength so he can endure it. Woojin starts sweating and comments that he can't win just by enduring. He has to break his brother's stance. Hojong says he has to admit that Woojin's sword draw and horizontal slash technique is very good. But they're on different levels. Woojin gets nervous because his brother is about to use the falling flower sword. The older brother advances, and Blackstone shouts that he's coming with his sword technique, then tells the boy to retreat quickly. Woojin dodges the attack. Even so, it gets grazed. He thinks it'll be his end if he shows any weakness. All wounded, Wujin thinks he only needs one chance. He just needs the sword draw to work once. He can't retreat. Hojong says that was actually fun, but it's time to finish it. He throws a powerful force at his younger brother. Blackstone shouts that if he retreats now, his arm will be done for, so Wujin concludes he must face it head-on. The will he wanted to put into his sword of a stronger and faster weapon. His long-cherished dream of destroying the Beak family of the Divine Sword. Releasing his power, Wujin manages to dissipate his brother's attack. He braces the sheath on the ground. Exhausted, he thinks he did it. Hojong grits his teeth and says Wujin is a bastard. Then he screams that he'll finish him off and throws his power again. Wujin is startled. He's too tired to handle that again. Confident, Wujin thinks he can block it if he uses the aura he has left. The system announces that his sword handling level increased by 1 due to extreme training. The first and second gates of the 10,000 swords have been opened. Wujin is confused. The system informs that Wujin is entering extreme concentration mode and activates his hyperfocus. Smiling, Hojong asks if the boy is really going to use the sword draw even after everything he's done, and if his younger brother doesn't get tired. That something scares him. Wujin is emanating aura, and Hojong says it's not possible that Bastard has all that aura. The system incorporates the formalities of enchantment and power into sword handling as Wujin prepares to draw. The Imperial Shadow Bullet was created, and with all his strength, Wujin throws it toward his older brother. It collides powerfully with the magic launched by Hojong. The older brother is shocked and wonders what that is. Desperate, he concludes that if he doesn't block, he'll lose his life. He protects himself, but still the bullet hits him hard. His rank 4 aura is collapsing. A massive explosion happens. Hojong starts dripping blood. He's on his knees on the ground full of wounds. Then he collapses, not understanding what happened. Wujin is standing before him. All the trainees around are speechless. Wujin supports his sword on the ground. He used too much aura. Blackstone approaches and says the Imperial Shadow Bullet with enchantment and strength suits him well, then congratulates the boy for discovering the path of the sword. Smiling, Wujin says he's never heard that compliment before. He turns to his father and shouts that he defeated Beak Hojong just like he was told to. All the brothers are shocked and Wujin yells that he won the bet. One of the sisters looks at their father thinking he's a crazy bastard. The patriarch rises slowly, then starts laughing. He stares at Wujin and says he has to admit the victory is his. The older sister is startled and wonders if she really just heard the patriarch admit he lost. Then wonders if Wujin really made a bet with their father and if he wasn't scared. Smiling, the patriarch says the boy doesn't need to attend training anymore, he can do as he pleases. The sister remains startled because the old man is smiling. Wujin kneels and thanks him. As he leaves, the old man says they're done for the day. He starts walking, then looks back with fury. Hojong is lying defeated on the ground. The old man calls him pathetic and leaves. That same day at the Beak Monastery, Wujin is in bed and says that if he didn't have any experience using the Delicate Knight, he would have passed out again. Blackstone says he still did well. The sword thinks it's hard to endure the side effects of using aura, and the boy's mentality is truly impressive. Smiling, Wujin says he can hardly believe he opened his sword path in such a dangerous moment. It's like a movie. Blackstone agrees. Looking at the bracelet, Wujin asks what's the good side of having the sword path, and Blackstone says it's like a key to the path of the 10,000 swords. Confused, the boy asks what the 10,000 swords are, and Blackstone replies that they're like a goal he's trying to reach in his sword art. He'll learn more about it while on the path. He hasn't even reached the entrance yet. Trembling, Wujin asks if he'll always end up like that whenever he uses the Imperial Shadow Bullet. The sword says that happened because he couldn't control his aura, but he can practice later using a smaller amount. Getting up, Wujin agrees but says he wants to do something first, then opens the system to look at his rewards. He receives 700 points, all his stats will increase by 1, and his next sword path was created. Wujin gets excited. Blackstone says the boy's lips are going to touch his ears if he keeps smiling like that. Very cheerful, Wujin jokes, asking if it'll be only his ears. Blackstone sighs. The system also informs that he shocked many people with the unexpected result and received a bonus of 500 points. Blackstone is surprised. Wujin becomes thoughtful and says that this thing of the system giving him points for shocking people seems like it wants him to evolve. Blackstone agrees and says the more people he shocks, the more points he'll earn. But if that motivates him to evolve, it's not a problem. The system seems to like him. Lying on the bed, Wujin agrees that it's not a bad thing, and Blackstone says it's great to see the boy can handle things on his own. Smiling a lot, Wujin says he could never have done all of that alone. He looks at his arm and says the bracelet helped him. Blackstone says that when the boy passed out, Jianwen didn't let anyone touch him, saying he belonged to Wujin. Then the sword asks what the boy will do with all those points. Wujin says he wants to raise everything to 31. Blackstone says his Shadow Bullet will also improve. Wujin is confused and asks if that has levels too. His Imperial Shadow Bullet is still level 1. Blackstone says the more the boy trains, the better it will get, and it will let him use more power since it contains both enchantment and strength. Getting up, Wujin says he'll start right now, and Blackstone asks what he's doing. Sitting down, Wujin says he'll train after recharging his aura. The sword asks if the boy is crazy and shouts that he'll die from overtraining. Seriously, the boy says he's already met death once, so the sword should be quiet. Blackstone is impressed and says he's really lost his mind. Outside, the members who watched the fight talk about how amazing it was. The people who didn't see it won't believe it. The young master Wujin's final sword draw was monstrous. One of the men asks the other if it wouldn't be good to join his faction. The other replies that he didn't expect the kid to grow that much. Looking at the clock, he comments that it's already time to go, then says that now he doesn't know which side is better to be on. The first man wonders if Woojin was hiding his power all this time. The eldest sister comments that people's opinions about Woojin are changing a lot. The expression the patriarch made at that moment she's never seen before. Then she says that after Hojong, it will be her turn by her side. A boy says that even if the youngest is a genius, against her, he'll have no chance. She says that's what Hojong thought too. You can't underestimate the boy. Then she says to continue with the plan, they need to root out the evil before it grows even more. The boy with the eldest sister asks the master how many people he should send. She asks how many rank 3 swordsmen are available, and he says Yoo and Kim Byung-seok. Then the girl orders both to be sent. Smiling, she says they don't want a threat like the boy in that family. Woojin continues his training. He perfects the use of the Imperial Shadow Bullet. Blackstone says that's the right amount of power for his current level, and Woojin is happy, saying now he can use it whenever he wants. Then they can do new training. Blackstone gets excited and says they should practice footwork, but the system informs that a new mission has arrived. Woojin must learn the vertical slash and the stab to open a new sword path. His levels will increase and he'll receive 700 points. Blackstone agrees and says he should do basic sword training. Smiling, Woojin asks if the sword didn't say footwork, and it says no. Mocking, Woojin says he heard it say footwork, but Blackstone gets angry and says he has to train swordsmanship skills along with footwork. Laughing, the boy agrees and Blackstone says he's being serious. Woojin draws his sword, then says he'll do the vertical slash. Someone calls out to him. It's Jeon Junhyuk, who approaches with an envelope, shouting that he knew the boy would be training there. Woojin asks what it is. The man hands the boy a mission letter. Blackstone approaches and asks if he's ever received one of those before. Woojin says yes, but wonders what it'll be this time. He opens the envelope. It's a mission to remove the threat in an unstable rank 3 area. Beak Woojin must go and will have Yoo and Kim Byung-seok as guards. Blackstone asks what that symbol is at the end of the paper, and Woojin explains that it's called the duty of the divine sword, which only the direct lineage of the Beak family receives. Woojin looks at the paper. Tense, they're trying to get him. The sword is confused, so the boy explains that usually it's not allowed to bring guards on that type of mission. This is the perfect opportunity to get rid of someone. The duty of the divine sword right after he defeated Beak Hojong. His father would leave him alone knowing how he is. Blackstone says it must be one of Woojin's siblings. The boy says he doesn't know how she did it, but it must be his sister Beak Sena. In his past life, those two men joined her faction. Blackstone reflects that Woojin's quiet sister is trying to take him out. The boy concludes she must be thinking she's next. That means she's planning something, so the boy shouldn't accept it. But Woojin says he must complete a duty of the divine sword with his life. And there's something very good in that area, so it's fine. He smiles and says if she wants to play dirty, he'll play dirty too. That night, in the Beak Monastery Hall, someone yells out. It's Woojin celebrating that he finally also got a divine sword duty. A rank 3 mission for a rank 1, Moon Jueang and Jeon Junhyuk observe. Blackstone asks why the boy is doing that while Woojin smiles with a dumb face. Moon Jueang says seriously that he suggests rejecting the mission. He won't be able to have protection while on a divine sword duty. Woojin says he won't back down and that 2 rank 3 swordsmen are going with him. The guard Moon Jueang tries to say something, but Jeon Junhyuk tells him to be careful with his words. Ignoring his companion, he shouts that it's only been a day since Woojin defeated Hojong. If you receive a mission in this situation, it can only mean one thing. Blackstone asks why Moon Jueang is worried about him now. Woojin becomes thoughtful, then asks if Moon Jueang is underestimating him and says he can easily complete a rank 3 mission. The guard tries to argue, but Woojin shouts for him to leave. He's going to say things like that. He'll just ruin the mood before the mission starts. Downcast, Moon Jueang agrees. Then he starts to walk away. Woojin tells Jeon Junhyuk to go with him. Leaving, Moon Jueang wonders if he misjudged Woojin. He seems smarter, but maybe he's not realizing the situation because of his ambition. Woojin thinks he understands the man's concern, but needs him to trust him this time. Suddenly, Moon Jueang stops, then turns around, startled. Woojin smiles and says to let the administrative branch know that he will accept the mission. Moon Jueang concludes that he's acting like this because he knows he's being watched. Jeon Junhyuk looks worried. Bowing, Moon Jueang agrees with Woojin. Woojin's older sister watches from afar. The man beside her says her brother accepted the mission. She sits down saying she already knew. No one in their right mind would reject a divine sword duty. Even if the youngest is talented with the sword, his thoughts are shallow. They will leave the next day for the mission, so she asks what the plan is. The man says Woojin will be at the front fighting monsters like a true descendant of the family. When he's halfway to the stable area, Yoo and Kim Byung-seok will ambush him. Both have recently reached rank 4, and they are known to not be connected to her, so there won't be any problems. Smiling, the girl says the man prepared everything. He hands her a photo. It's of a hooded man. The man says he'll finish the job. No one will return alive from that mission. She is pleased and tells him not to let his guard down and to do the job well all the way to the end. The man smiles and says it's quite disappointing to think of the cute little brother losing his life. Blackstone asks if Woojin is going to keep training even though it's the day of the mission. Then says the boy should take a break. The boy says it takes 3 hours to reach the place and he can rest during that time. Nervous, Blackstone says the boy is crazy and Woojin comments that he's having fun. The sword shouts that in truth, he's been practicing vertical slashes and stabbing since sunrise. Woojin smiles and says he's getting stronger as he trains, different from his past life. Someone apologizes for being late. There are 2 men who greet the young master. He asks who they are, and they say they were selected to go on the divine sword duty with him. One introduces himself as Yujiwoo, rank 3 swordsman. The other says he is Kim Byung-seok, also a rank 3 swordsman. Woojin greets them. Blackstone comments that he thinks the boy was right when he said they wanted his head. Woojin asks why, and the sword says they claim to be rank 3, but they are actually rank 4. Everything starts to make sense. But the boy knows those guys aren't the only ones Sienna prepared. Blackstone asks if that means she has a plan B, and the boy says yes. Since they already knew about these two, they'll probably face others later. Arriving with the boy's bag, Moon Jueon appears saying they finished the preparations. The boy thanks him and asks if he got everything that was requested. The man confirms, saying he put all the equipment Woojin asked for in the bag. Seriously, he says he trusts the young master, but wants him to be careful. Calmly, Woojin thanks him and tells the man he doesn't need to worry. Then he smiles and tells the man not to worry and just wait for his return. Moon Jueon smiles and says he will wait. Some time passes and they head into the middle of a forest. A man greets Woojin and thanks him for coming. Then says that before they enter, he'll explain a bit about the current condition of the rift. He'll be entering a variant region that merges 3 dimensions, so the environment has changed. Woojin comments that it seems like the outside of the rift was affected too. The man confirms and says it's usually not that foggy around there. The boy seems calm about going in. Turning to his companions, he asks if they understood the mission's purpose. Kim says they are to eliminate the monsters and plants that pose a threat. Then Woojin tells them to move forward, and the men agree. Turning to the man who received them, Woojin says they're entering now. As the 3 enter, he reminds them to be careful. Inside, Blackstone notes that the air is quite thin. Woojin comments that it's colder too. Hisora asks if Woojin knows that place. The boy says he even remembers what lives there. He begins to say something, but then hears a sound. It's the growl of a monster. Several of them, right in front of the trio. Yujiwoo exclaims the situation to the young master. Woojin tells them to take them down. Then Yujiwoo gets confused. Seriously, Woojin repeats that the men should take the monsters down and asks what part of that is hard to understand. Sweating, the man says he thought direct descendants usually took the lead in battles. Kim Byung-seok asks if Woojin isn't going to fight. Then the boy asks if he really needs to fight against 10 goblins and questions if they're scared of being rank 3 swordsmen. Kim Byung-seok gets nervous. Woojin says he'll step in if too many show up or if something really strong appears. The creatures begin to advance. The boy yells for the men to shut up and finish off the goblins. While attacking the monsters, Kim Byung-seok gets furious and wonders why Woojin isn't fighting. Blackstone comments that it seems his sister underestimated him, then asks if he's really going to fight later and says he should have stayed quiet. Woojin says he told them when he would fight on purpose. The plan was to catch him when he was up front fighting, but now it's ruined. Tired, Yujiwoo says they've taken down all the monsters. Woojin says that was nothing, so they should keep moving. Kim murmurs that they'll have to ambush Woojin as soon as he turns his back. Yu agrees, otherwise they'll run out of options. Woojin smiles and tells Blackstone that he'll let them know when they should ambush him, so he can predict when he'll be attacked. The Sora is surprised that he knows how to use his head. As they walk, something cuts Yujiwoo's hand. His companion runs toward him saying he'll help. Blackstone identifies it as a thorny ash and Woojin asks if the sword knows it too. Seriously, he says that in his world there was also that plant. Woojin says it's curious because they also call it thorny ash in this world. Only a special coagulant can treat a wound from thorny ash. It also stings a lot, so it's easy to get distracted during fights. Yujiwoo complains that he should have been wearing more protective gear, but he got distracted. Another creature approaches. Yujiwoo yells that it's a monster. Woojin stretches and says that one looks pretty strong, so he'll fight it. The one injured by the thorny ash can rest. Excited, Yujiwoo thinks they'll get him as soon as the boy turns his back. Kim Byung-seok wants to pierce the boy's heart. Woojin charges at the monster. Both men look at each other. Then they scream as they fly toward Woojin to finish him off, but the boy is smiling. Then Woojin glances at both of them. Yujiwoo says that since he's young, they'll take care of the boy as quickly as possible. And they state that they're only following orders, so he shouldn't hate them too much when he gets to hell, but Woojin dodges, jumping away. The men strike the creature in a single move. One of them is shocked. Woojin stares, filled with hatred, and the other asks if the boy dodged. Preparing to draw his sword, the boy says now it's his turn, since those bastards are nothing but trash. The men shout to each other that they need to get Woojin and can't let him escape, and wonder how the boy found out. Smiling and walking through the monsters, Woojin says he knew from the start. The men are frightened and Yujiwoo asks why the monster isn't attacking him. Smiling psychopathically, Woojin says those creatures tend to attack whoever strikes first. So they're seeing those two as enemies and the monsters charge forward. The men start to panic. Kim yells for you to go after the boy and says he'll take care of the enemies. They must complete the young master's mission, no matter what. With a single move, Woojin disarms Yu and says that's hilarious. One of the monsters hits the man with an axe. Kim shouts that he'll end the boy. Woojin takes a combat stance and his Razadum aura, Dark Wind, is activated. The man tries to hit him, but the boy dodges. Then says that even if he completes Beak Sina's quest, someone else would have taken them down, and then the boy hits the man with a blow. He falls to his knees, bleeding, outraged that someone of rank 1 won. He mutters that it can't be possible. Woojin takes a deep breath and thinks it would have been harder if the men had attacked silently. Facing the monsters, he wonders if they're the only ones left. They begin to leave now that their enemies are gone, and Blackstone says the boy won't need to waste his energy. That ended sooner than the sword expected, and Woojin says he still has more to do. Blackstone is confused, so the boy says his sister is wicked. She probably sent someone else to get rid of those two. Smiling, Woojin says this time he's the one who's going to ambush someone. A man approaches thinking about the low oxygen air and thick fog. He's the hired assassin. and that's a perfect arena for him. He approaches the bodies and wonders if they already got rid of Woojin. Seeing who they were, he gets scared and questions why they're in that state. And Beak Woojin's body isn't there. Behind the man, someone says he's pretty observant. He turns quickly. Woojin is flying at him with a sword strike. Quickly, the man defends himself. Smiling, the boy says he meant to annihilate him right there, but the man blocked it, so he's better than expected. Frightened, the man doesn't understand how the boy managed it. He saw through his stealth. A little earlier, Blackstone asked what Woojin would do about the assassin, and if he knew him, the boy said he didn't know who Beak Shina would send. The sword said he defeated the others using monsters, but now he needed to figure out how to ambush someone he knew nothing about. Woojin had an idea and said he didn't know who the man was, but he might know what kind of skill he has. Since the fog obscures vision, he's probably someone specialized in stealth. Then he said Blackstone would have to help him. The sword thought that was unpleasant. Blackstone announced the man was approaching and Woojin said he could feel him. The man is furious with Woojin and Blackstone shouts for him to roll back to dodge. Woojin escapes the man's attack, who wonders how the boy survived, then prepares to fight, concluding he must end Woojin immediately. And Blackstone says he's using stealth again, and starts giving Woojin instructions, telling him to turn slightly to the side to dodge. When fighting someone who uses stealth, you have to use sword draw at the most specific moments. Woojin hits the man's nose, who's outraged. Then the boy prepares to draw his sword. He gathers all his power into the weapon. The man realizes he's in big trouble. Woojin fires the Imperial Shadow bullet at him. He is startled. The man is blasted far away and crashes against a tree. Woojin takes a deep breath. Blackstone says he believed too much in his ability and had it used against him. Woojin says that if it weren't for the sword, he would have already lost his life, but Blackstone smiles and asks what the boy wants to do now. If he's going to take revenge, Woojin says he would never beat Shana since she's rank 5. Blackstone asks what he'll do if she keeps interrupting his training, but he replies that he'll prevent it. The sword asks how, and the boy says she'll see when they get there. They'll probably have a meeting. Outraged, Blackstone says he never says things up front, then asks what's in that place after all smiling. Woojin says a rank 3 monster and a flower. The sword says she gets the monster part, but didn't get the flower idea. The boy says it should be around there if he remembers correctly. Then he finds it, the red flower he spoke of. Blackstone gets scared and Woojin asks if he knows that flower. Seriously, Blackstone says yes, and that they call it the morning sunflower. Woojin says they also call it that. Concerned, the boy asks if those things might be coming from the same place Blackstone lived. The sword says maybe, since even the monsters look similar. The boy asks if he knows any use for that flower too, and Blackstone says yes, but tells him not to pick it now, since they're better at sunrise and sunset. Woojin comments that the monster must already be approaching. Suddenly, a creature comes out of the lake. It's a huge monster that protects the mysterious morning sunflower. Blackstone observes that it's a clay golem and Woojin agrees. The sword then asks if that won't be too hard for the boy. Golems have great destructive and regenerative power, but the boy says it's just a low-rank golem. Then Blackstone draws his attention. Even if it's low rank, nothing matters if he doesn't destroy its core. The sword gets outraged that he's smiling. Concerned, Blackstone asks if Woojin remembers where the monster's core is, and gets outraged because it seems like the boy has everything handed to him too easy. Seriously, Woojin tells Blackstone to be quiet so he can concentrate. The monster prepares to attack, and Woojin comments that it would be bad if he gets hit even once. The golem is ready to crush the boy with its hands, then strikes the ground, but Woojin is ready. Those are the same movements as the troll he encountered in his past life. If he doesn't dodge, he just needs to slide the attack. Woojin brings the monster down to the ground, and with a quick movement drawing his sword, he breaks the creature's posture. Blackstone asks if Woojin used strength and enchanted his sword. The boy says yes, since he needs speed to face such a heavy attack. The sword says he didn't destroy the monster's core, so it's going to come back to life. Smirking, Woojin says he left it alive because he thought it would be great for training. Blackstone is shocked. Woojin says golems revive and attack, so they're quite useful. Worried, Blackstone asks if Woojin's goal is to play with the monster, since he knows where its core is. The boy smiles and says it's for his training. Blackstone asks if he's out of his mind, but Woojin points and asks him to watch, then asks if it's important to cut a straight line, no matter how you use the sword. Blackstone agrees, and Woojin says he's been learning something lately. With a movement, he makes a vertical cut on the creature. Woojin says the golem seems to be walking in a straight line, but it's not. Looking at the sword, the boy asks if that isn't good training. She agrees it's crazy, but not bad. But if he wants to do that, he should decide his sword's attributes too. Woojin says he chose speed and weight for vertical cuts and speed and precision for thrusts. Blackstone says so it's enchantment and weight and enchantment and precision, and asks the boy to put his will into the sword. Woojin agrees. The golem starts to get outraged that they're playing with him. The day comes to an end. Blackstone asks them to stop since the sun is setting. The boy agrees, saying he has to get the morning sunflower and go home. Then he finishes off the monster. He rips off its arm and gets ready to attack. Quickly, he rushes toward the golem's hand and pierces it, destroying the monster. The system reports that he completed a mission. He received the reward of 700 points plus a 100-point bonus, and his friendship with Blackstone increased. The first gate of the 10,000 swords, Sword of Enchantment, was unlocked. The third gate was also unlocked, and the sword path containing enchantment speed and weight, Mist Reaper Slash, was created. Blackstone is outraged. The boy is confused about the Mist Reaper Slash. Blackstone says he didn't expect him to learn that sword path too, then shouts for him to grab the morning sunflower first. Woojin jumps toward the flower, and asks if he can pick it at that moment. Since it's orange, Blackstone replies, yes, it's at its best now. Smiling, Woojin says it was a great day, with a morning sunflower and a training dummy that never breaks. Mocking, Blackstone says no normal person would ever use a golem for training. Then he approaches with the flower and asks Blackstone to open his mouth. The sword opens and questions why Woojin says he's going to give him the morning sunflower. Blackstone yells that he's an idiot and should put it in his inventory. But something magical happens to Blackstone. The man at the entrance of the rift is startled by Woojin's return and tells him he did a good job, then asks about the others. Woojin says he was ambushed by an assassin there. The man says that's not possible, since no one entered that rift. The boy asks if the man can find out who that person was and shows the lifeless body of the assassin. The man says he committed a serious sin by not seeing that person enter the rift, but Woojin says it's okay. Woojin thinks that using a criminal who is easy to control and expose is something Beek Sina would do. The boy asks if that body will give him any reward, and the man says yes, and will transfer the money as soon as he calculates it, then asks how the boy dealt with someone so strong. Woojin smiles and says he just finished him off. Finally, he asks the man to deal with the guys who went with him. However, he prefers they don't deserve to return to the Beek family. Blackstone says it's very good that Woojin is safe, but wants to know what the boy will do now. The boy says he doesn't know yet, but he's curious about one thing: the expression Beek Sin-ah will make when she sees him alive. The brother she wanted so badly to annihilate that she even hired a hitman. Before the patriarch, he asks his older sisters say what she did wrong. She and Woojin stand before the old man, who asks again what she did wrong. The girl bites her lips. Furious, the patriarch asks if she's deaf. Kneeling on the ground, she apologizes, then admits she changed the mission so they would eliminate Woojin. She gave him a false duty of the divine sword and told the swordsman who went with him to ambush him. All the siblings are present and are shocked. Then the patriarch asks if that's all. The girl replies yes. Seriously, the old man says he'll ask someone else and questions Woojin about what his sister's mistake was. Seriously, he replies that it was not succeeding. She used all the means she had and still couldn't finish him off. That was her mistake. He says his sister even used a hitman with a criminal record, but still failed. Beek Sina looks at him furiously. Scratching the floor, she thinks this doesn't make sense. He's just a mere rank 2 swordsman. There's no way he could have defeated them all. The old man repeats that she didn't succeed. The younger siblings are shocked. The older ones seem calm while the patriarch says Woojin's answer is correct. She gave him a divine sword duty without permission. That means she had help from someone above her. Besides that, she used swordsmen she had been hiding and even hired a hitman, yet still failed. That was Beek Sina's mistake. The girl says she is ashamed. And the old man asks if Woojin knows what he has to do, and the boy says he must take revenge since she tried to annihilate him. The patriarch asks if the boy is able to do that, but Woojin replies that moment he can't. The old man laughs at the boy's answer. He says Sina has been rank 5 for a while and even has a sword squad, and asks if Woojin is saying he can defeat them all. Woojin says that, like he said, he still can't. But if the patriarch gives him some time, he will be able to do it. The old man smiles, then tells his daughter that 20 of her 55 swordsmen affiliated with the squad will no longer be part of it, and she must go meditate at the wall for 9 months. The girl clenches her fist full of hatred and says she will obey the patriarch's order. The old man orders everyone to return now. The children greet the old man and leave. Shana calls Woojin. As they leave, she says that 9 months is a short time and she will find him when she gets out. The boy says he'll give her the same fate he gave Hojeon. There was someone else as arrogant as her who got beaten up by him. Behind the boy, Hojeon hears everything and gets angry. Xiana smiles and says Woojin is very confident just for beating that trash. She says that unlike Beek Manhwa and Beek Hojeon, who can't handle anything, she will definitely finish him after those 9 months. Smiling, she adds that she's not nice at all. Woojin says he's looking forward to finding out which of the two will actually lose their life. A man arrives yelling for the manager, who responds, then asks what brings him there at such an hour. Manhwa asks who are the most annoying guys in the crime countermeasure division. Smiling, the manager says Sejinwoo and Park Cheolian. Then Manhwa shouts that Park Cheolian has died, a rank 4 criminal. The man gets up startled, shouting if that assassin really lost his life. Manhwa confirms and says that scumbag was in the database with a bounty. The manager yells that he wants to know how he died and where it happened. The man says it was in a rift variation region. The youngest of the Beek family of the Divine Sword got him. The manager is shocked. He puts his hand on his face and asks if it was that young master again. Manhwa asks if the man knows him. He replies that it's the same person who stopped Sejinwoo. Manhwa is shocked and asks if it was really the youngest, not Beek Hojeon or Beek Sina. The manager confirms and says he just reached rank 2. He even finished off Park Cheolian. The man asks if he got stronger and says he's a monster. Manhwa asks if it's possible for a 15-year-old boy to do that. The manager comments that that's why he's a monster. Woojin checks his basic information. Now he is rank 3. Woojin comments to Blackstone that things are starting to get boring, and the sword asks if it's not a good thing that his sister is falling. The boy says the patriarch mentioned she had some help. Blackstone asks if that means there's someone above him trying to annihilate him. Woojin says probably, but he can't guess who it might be. Someone comments that, as expected, Woojin is in his room. It's Sangyeon Han. He's serious and asks his brother what happened and why Sina knelt before the patriarch. Woojin asks if Sangyeon just came back from a mission and tells him to sit down because it's a long story. The man is shocked that his sister tried to eliminate him, then asks what Woojin will do. Since 9 months is a very short time, the boy says he needs to try facing her properly. Sangyeon says Siena has many swordsmen working for her. He wants to help Woojin and asks what he thinks about them trying to settle it. The boy says he almost lost his life. Mere apologies can't fix that. The man takes a deep breath, then stands up, saying the family motto is strength above all, obey orders above all, and apologizes for not taking Woojin's feelings into consideration. The boy says it's okay and thanks him for the concern. Sangyeon tells Woojin to call him if he needs any help. The boy thanks him and tells the man to go rest because he must be exhausted. Smiling, he agrees. Blackstone comments that he seems a bit worried. Woojin says he must have noticed that the boy has changed. He was someone who didn't assert himself in any situation just a few months ago. Sangyeon leaves. Woojin comments that he feels sorry for him, but he's no longer his old self. The system appears, showing his current status. His abilities have increased greatly. All are above 30. Blackstone tells Woojin to try using the morning sunflower he picked too, then asks if the boy knows how to use them correctly. They're great for mana and aura if used properly. Woojin gets excited and asks Blackstone to teach him how to use the flower. The sword gets excited. He says the morning sunflower should be treated like other medicinal herbs. He can refine it easily if he puts his aura into it. Then just consume it. Woojin complains that it's hard to eat it as powder and asks if he can mix it with water. Blackstone is shocked. The boy starts pouring hot water into the powder and says it must be good for the body and that other medicinal herbs can be mixed with water. Blackstone gets angry, but Woojin doesn't seem even a little worried and drinks the tea with the morning sunflower. The sister reports that he received 20 points in resistance, mana sensitivity, and aura resistance. He consumed the morning sunflower correctly for the first time. The sensitivity of 4 attributes will increase by 20 points. Blackstone is shocked that Woojin consumed the flower correctly. Woojin mocks, saying the sword thinks it knows more than him, but the system says otherwise. Blackstone yells that he's just a little lucky. Smiling, the boy says it doesn't matter and tells Blackstone to believe in him from now on, then asks what attribute sensitivity is, and Blackstone replies that he can place 4 attributes in his aura. He can also use it as a spirit. Woojin is shocked and says only special auras have that ability and asks how it's possible to use spirits. Blackstone says he doesn't know. After all, he's just a sword. None of his previous masters had spirits. Woojin is outraged because the sword sounds disappointed. Woojin comments that he'll have to find a spiritualist then, and Blackstone agrees. The boy says he'll deal with that later and wonders what kind of training he should do, but someone knocks on the door. It's Moon Jueyang. Woojin says he can come, and the man enters the room and says he heard the story and asks how the boy is feeling. Woojin says he told him not to worry. Moon Jueyang says that even so, it could have been very dangerous. Blackstone is startled that the man is worried about the boy and says he seems dedicated to being his bodyguard. Then the sword suggests that Woojin ask Moon Jueyang to help him train. The boy is confused. A new task appears in the system. He must clear 20 rank 2 dungeons with a boss. He will receive 700 points and a title. The goal is for him to use his abilities in real life. Woojin is shocked because that means he'll have to do it alone. Blackstone says that mission will only be completed if he does everything by himself. Moon Jueyang gets Woojin's attention. The boy smiles and tells the sword he liked that, then calls his bodyguard, then apologizes for saying it only now, but wants a favor from Moon Jueyang. The system provides data on that dungeon. There are a total of 50 monsters. A creature approaches. Blackstone observes that orcs fight only with their strength and instincts, so he must dodge the first attack and then strike back. The creature is furious and gets closer. Woojin dodges, then hits the orc with his weapon and says that Moon Jueyang found a very good dungeon. Blackstone is outraged that the boy is grateful to Moon Jueyang, then says it's all thanks to the system, which tells him everything. Woojin says it's better that way for him. He'll be able to finish the mission quickly. Blackstone says that's too much for him. But in the end, the system has helped him many times. Even so, looking like that, Woojin seems like a bandit. The boy says he can't help it since it's to maintain the identity Moon Jueyang gave him. A few days earlier, Moon Jueyang arrives delivering to Woojin a new identity he requested. A rank 3 swordsman, Kim Ji-hun, 28 years old and with no family. Woojin receives the document and comments that he didn't expect the man to act so quickly. Then Moon Jueyang comments that he can change his appearance, but his dark aura is very noticeable, and asks if the boy has any idea what he's going to do with it. The boy says the man trusted him, so he's going to show him. Moon Jueyang is shocked that the boy has a subspace pocket. Woojin takes out the mask and comments that he acquired a very interesting item. The man asks if that's a mask. Immediately, Woojin becomes Kim Ji-hun. Speechless, Moon Jueyang asks how Woojin can transform so quickly. The boy says he already has a solution for his aura, and says he can also change the color of his aura. The man comments that he's never heard of that type of item. Smiling, Woojin says he's perfect, and Moon Jueyang agrees, saying no one will recognize the boy. Taking off the mask, he comments that the man was the first to know about the mask. Moon Jueyang asks why Woojin told him about it, and the boy says it's because he trusts him. He is startled by the response. Woojin smiles and says that Moon Jueyang is his guard. The man remains confused, so the boy says he warned him when he took on the divine mission. Moon Jueyang starts shouting that it was just a day after he defeated the young master Hojuom. If he received a mission in that situation, it could only mean one thing. Woojin responds that he didn't expect him to worry that day. He knows the man is following his father's orders, but he's the first person who cares about him, and he knows the man realizes that too. So the boy thanks him for being by his side. Moon Jueyang bows and says he will protect the boy with all he has. He sees great potential in him. He doesn't intend to tell anyone, not even the patriarch, about what he saw that day. After all, if the boy wants to hide it, there must be a reason for it. Woojin says he's going to train and rank 2 dungeons. The man is shocked. Wujin explains that at the moment, he is a rank 1 swordsman who took down 2 rank 4 criminals. There are many rumors about him, so it would be problematic if he entered rank 2 dungeons. People would start questioning it. And there's a reason for that, Beek Sena. He doesn't want another attempt on his life. Mu Juliang agrees, then says he'll find a dungeon for him quickly so the boy can start training. Wujin thanks him, and emphasizes that they need to be ones with bosses. The man agrees. Blackstone says that knowing the man, he'll probably take that secret to the grave. He's totally on his side at this point. The system updates that Wujin is in a dungeon with 50 monsters. He's already taken down 13 of them. Wujin says they have to be quick because there's a long road ahead. Orcs approach. Wujin prepares to draw his sword. He keeps increasing the number of orcs defeated. As the monsters approach, he doesn't seem shaken. On the contrary, Wujin smiles and wonders if the creatures are trying to save him time by coming to him. Quickly, he attacks the monsters. Wujin comments that it's really cool, he doesn't need to search for them since he has a map. Blackstone says that's cheating. The boy continues wiping out the creatures. Everyone who comes close, he strikes, until he has defeated 40 of them. He puts away his sword, a little tired. Blackstone says he's already taken out more than 40 by now. Wujin asks if he can go to the boss already. The system reports via the map that the dungeon's boss has appeared. He gets closer. The system warns that the boss is skilled in shield use. Blackstone is outraged that the system is even handing him the boss on a platter. Since he's a specialist in the art of the shield, it'll be hard to attack him unless he breaks his posture. The creature looks at Wujin with a terrifying gaze, and the boy comments that he'll have to face a boss like that 19 more times. The giant orc growls. Wujin says it's time to act, then charges at the monster. He strikes its shield and both fall to the ground. The orc quickly turns around. It lets out a roar and starts advancing again. Wujin starts moving toward the creature and says it's really good at defense, so there's no point in fighting it head-on. Blackstone asks what the boy is doing. Wujin says it would take forever if he fought that way, and asks if the sword remembers the skill he learned while fighting the golem last time. The system opens the sword path containing speed and weight. He plans to use a vertical slash, then charges forward and says he can break the boss's posture. The boy lands a vertical blow on the monster. The creature falls to the ground. Even defending with its shield, it wasn't enough. Its eyes look desperate. A huge explosion occurs. The system reports that he cleared the dungeon. The boss is on the ground, already lifeless. He managed to finish the first of 20 dungeons, and Wujin says it's a good start. He wipes the sweat from his face. Blackstone says the boy's powers are making him into a monster, and Wujin replies that he's pretty powerful when he uses all his mana. Something catches his attention. He picks up something the boss was wearing and asks if it's a belt. Blackstone comments that he's pretty brave for grabbing something off a corpse like that. Then Wujin asks if the sword can evaluate the item. She complains that the boy is very polite when he wants favors. The system reports that it's the warrior orc's belt, which contains the spirit of battle and increases mentality and stamina. Its rank is rare. Blackstone says that's incredible. Wujin comments that that was a great dungeon for real-life experience. Blackstone says he should be grateful to the system. A noise occurs. Wujin notices that the dungeon seems to be unraveling now that the boss is gone. Blackstone tells them to leave since the mission is over. The boy agrees. He exits through the portal. The whole group that came out wonders what happened in there. That dungeon ended too early, and one of them says it felt like being possessed by a ghost. Wujin smiles. Moon Juliang is happy that his master is back and says he did a good job. Wujin thanks him. Bowing, the man says that it's just his duty. Besides, he asks if the young man gained a lot of experience. Wujin says he defeated the boss and 40 orcs. The guard is shocked by the information. Moon Juliang asks if Wujin formed a team in there, and the boy replies that he did everything alone. Then the man wonders how someone like that boy could have been treated like a nobody until now. Again, he bows and says he'll find another dungeon for him quickly. This is his chance to serve someone amazing. Sometime later, the system reports that he cleared another dungeon, this time the 4th of 20. Blackstone asks if Moon Juliang is happy just finding dungeons for the boy, and he agrees. Then says he's never seen him so happy. Moon Juliang even asks if he prefers a dungeon where 2 people go and might die, or one where he goes alone and might die. The sword says it seems like he's purposely giving him tough dungeons. Wujin comments that they're good for improving his experience. But that day, something strange is going on. Blackstone asks what it is. Wujin notices that people's facial expressions there seem dark. Blackstone asks if that's not because they aren't used to dungeons. Now that Blackstone thinks about it, that group split into 3 inside the dungeon. 1 to kill the monsters, 1 to defend the monsters, and 1 to watch. A man calls for Wujin. Blackstone is startled. The man says that's his area and he'll let Wujin go for 80%. The boy is confused, and the man tells him not to play dumb, that if he gives him 80% of his items and magic stones, he'll let him go. It's best not to interfere with other people's business, so he doesn't end up seeing blood. That dungeon seems good. If Wujin obeys, he might even bring him into his guild. Blackstone asks what the man is talking about. Wujin realizes that's why the expressions are so grim. They must know something. The man asks if Wujin isn't going to respond. He's seen many men like that in his past life. They take advantage of weak people and establish a servitude contract. The man emphasizes something. If the boy refuses, he'll finish him off. Wujin is startled. That man is a bastard. Signaling for the man to go away, Wujin says he's busy and for him to go with his little slaves. He gets angry and tries to punch Wujin, but the boy dodges. Suddenly, he appears behind him with his sword and strikes the man in the head, who faints on the spot. Blackstone says that was a beautiful strike, very satisfying. Woojin says that's the best way to talk to people like that man. Blackstone notices that the other men there seem to be on the guy's side, and Woojin comments that he already noticed that. Then the sword asks if the boy is going to leave him alone, and he says not now. He knows who those guys are. They take advantage of the weak to get their way. Theft, blackmail, murder. They'll do anything for money. Then says they're only a guild because they run a pyramid scheme. The sword asks if all that is to monopolize the dungeon. Seriously, Woojin says that's their method, fighting in large numbers. That arrogant bastard is probably a real member of the guild. The others must be his slaves because they're weaker than him. Blackstone says then Woojin needs to drive them out, and the boy says not all of them. He's going to find the real boss. Blackstone is outraged. Standing up, the man says that was good, but the boy shouldn't dare attack him from behind. Now he's going to annihilate that piece of trash. Woojin looks and wonders how the man didn't die. A boy calls the man Hyung and says the boy doesn't seem like a normal person. He defeated a boss all by himself. The man stares at him. He grabs the boy by the collar, then yells that he's talking too much today. He himself took down a rank 4 the other day, and they're just going to do the same thing this time. Ambushing and taking advantage are two different things. The boy screams in fear. The man shouts to everyone that he will annihilate anyone who doesn't work, and everyone agrees. Blackstone says that man seems pretty confident and asks if Woojin really wants to face him. The boy says yes. All the man's slaves go toward the boy, shouting for him to die. They launch their powers at the boy. A huge explosion happens. The man smiles and says that's what Woojin gets for trying to act important. But something scares him. Woojin simply disappeared. The man yells that he vanished and tells everyone to be careful, but Woojin is already among them, ready to attack. He strikes one. Few are ranked like him. Furious, the man yells that Woojin is a bastard. He kneels. Then Woojin approaches and says he's just a rank 3 swordsman passing through. He turns to the group and says he's warning them now, but if they don't stop, he'll have to take them all down. The man is on the ground, scared, and Woojin asks his name. He introduces himself as Kim Deokshul. The boy asks where he's from. He replies that he's from the Black Mantis Guild, and Woojin asks what his real guild is. Head down. The man says it's the Tribone Guild. Woojin recognizes that name. Blackstone asks if he knows what guild that is, and Woojin replies that it's a guild with multiple levels that grew drastically in size. The sword asks if it's as big as the boy's family, and he says no. Woojin asks if everyone there is also from the Tribone Guild. Sweating, he says yes, and that they created several guilds to monopolize the dungeons. There are about 8 guilds in Tribone. Woojin points to others there and asks if they're also part of the guild. Kim Deokul replies that they forced those people to join the guild. They used their debts or families for brainwashing. Woojin asks who ordered that. He stammers, saying he doesn't know, and the boy gets angry. Kim Deokul says they don't know who the leader is after all. They don't get direct orders. Woojin comments as he grabs his sword that then he's not the leader. Desperate, Kim Deokul says he already said everything he knows, now the boy should let him go. But Woojin uses his horizontal slash, making blood spray. Someone says that trash who betrays his own allies shouldn't live, and Woojin was right to end him. The boy notices that taking the man down doesn't affect the Tribone Guild. A surprise mission appears. Woojin must take down the Tribone Guild to earn 700 points and 2 surprise rewards. The boy is shocked. Blackstone comments that those rewards are really good, then asks if the boy is going to accept it, and he says yes. But the master of the Tribone Guild is a very careful man. He'll hide if Woojin makes any mistake. The others there start shouting that they don't know anything and kneel, crying and begging Woojin to help them. The boy tells them to inform their masters and their guilds that they want to join the Tribone Guild. The group is confused. An old man says they were at rock bottom. This will make them rise through the ranks. The group should say they are obedient and that they like the way the guild monopolizes the dungeons. The group agrees. Blackstone asks if Woojin thinks that'll reach Jang Hyung-woo's ears, and the boy says yes as everyone runs off. Blackstone asks how the boy can be so sure, and he says he read articles exposing the truth about multi-level guilds in his past life. There must be an official guild member among that group. Woojin asks Moon Jueang if he knows about the Tribone Guild, and the man replies no. The boy says it's a multi-level guild, and that he was ambushed by them the day before in the dungeon. Moon Jueang gets worried and asks if he's okay. He starts asking if the boy is hurt, and says he'll call a doctor. Woojin says it's not necessary and he's fine. Blackstone observes that he's very loyal. Moon Jueang says he's heard about multi-level guilds before. They sign contracts that promise support gear and then hike up the interest rates, trapping everyone. Woojin says he wants more information. The man asks what the boy means by that. He wants to do something about it. There were a lot of people being forced to be in the dungeon too. Concerned, the man asks if Woojin wants to destroy a multi-level guild for the sake of those people. The boy says he doesn't like what they're doing. Blackstone mocks, saying he just has a mission. Moon Jueang's hand trembles. Then he stands up and shouts that Woojin is amazing. He thinks about how amazing it is that someone from the Beak family is caring about other people's pain. That guy has talent and a good heart. It's the kindness he had been searching for all that time. He must be someone to follow. And the person who can change the Beak family from the divine sword. Blackstone comments that Moon Jueang looks at Woojin as if he's a hero. The man bows, thinking it can only be Woojin, and says he can leave it to him, like he'll find all sorts of information about that guild. The boy thanks him, nervous, while Moon Jueang is amazed. Then he says there's a rumor he wants the man to spread. He looks confused. 1 month later at the Tribone Guild, a man looks out the window. He asks another if there's anyone wanting to join the guild, and the other replies yes. Then the master asks about that person's skills, and the man replies that he defeated a boss alone and evaded the guild members who were there. The master asks if he did a background check, and the man says yes. and the person isn't connected to any major association or guild. He's rank 4. Curious, the master asks why that person wants to join the guild, and the man replies that he said he liked the way the guild handles dungeons. The man heard talk about the guild monopolizing all mana stones and items, so they like money. According to rumors, he uses most of it in gambling, seems like his type of guy. Then the master asks the man to bring that person to him. Woojin completes dungeon 9 of 20 and Blackstone observes that he's being fast. The boy agrees and says Moon Juriang is hunting those dungeons very eagerly. The sword comments that something feels off. It's been a month already, but still no sign of the Tribone Guild people. Woojin says it'll be resolved soon. He has some information. Blackstone asks what kind of information. A man calls out for Kim Ji-hun. It's information that the Tribone Guild is looking for members. The man before Woojin greets him, saying he's Sun Tae-won from the Tribone Guild. The boy says he thought they wouldn't want him. The man says that if he hasn't changed his mind about joining the guild, he should follow him, and Woojin asks what the man wants after a whole month. Sun Tae-won apologizes and says Woojin will regret it if he doesn't come with him. The boy asks how he can believe that. Then the man holds out a stone to the boy, saying it's an apology gift. He'll give him another if the boy decides to go with him. Taking the stone, Woojin says Sun Tae-won knows how to do things. Smiling, the man thinks about how the boy is crazy about money. Woojin tells him to lead the way, and Sun Tae-won says he prepared a car. Moon Juriang says he'll go with Woojin, and Woojin asks if the guard remembers his role. He's on a motorcycle disguised and says yes, he's supposed to go to Jong Hyun-woon's base near the guild. The boy tells Moon Juriang to come in when he gives the signal. The man agrees. Sun Tae-won says they've arrived and his master is waiting after the stairs. Woojin comments that this mission is going to end much sooner than he expected. Blackstone asks what he's planning right now. The boy tells the sword to just watch. The master welcomes Woojin, who replies that the man's invitation came too late for him to be that happy about it. Smiling, the man apologizes and says he needed time. Blackstone comments that they really do a background check, and Woojin confirms, saying they're very careful. Then the master asks if the boy wants to join the guild, and says he'll help him with whatever he wants, but there's something Woojin needs to do for them. Woojin says he hates waiting even if the treatment is amazing. The man looks confused. Then the boy adds that since they checked his background, he wants to see the group's skills. He gives him 40 rank 2 dungeons with bosses. If he does them in 2 weeks, the boy will work for him. Blackstone asks, shocked, if that's what Woojin meant when he said his mission would end soon, and the boy agrees, saying villains should be used. The master says that number of dungeons would only be possible for a guild like the Beak families. Woojin asks why he's comparing himself to a shitty family. Then the man starts laughing and says Woojin is insane. Blackstone comments that he's starting to get confused about who the villain really is. Seriously, Woojin says he thought the man had more guilds under his command, and the master asks what they're going to live off of if they give those dungeons to the boy. Woojin says he may not have anything now, but he'll gain a useful tool, an intelligent person who will obey his commands. The man smiles and asks if the boy is talking about himself. Then the boy replies yes, while thinking that he'll also be the tool that ends that place once and for all. The master says he'll give Woojin 10 dungeons, but before he can finish speaking, the boy says he wants 12. There will be no deal if it's less than 12 dungeons. The man asks if the boy is trying to negotiate and says he can give at most 11. Smiling, Woojin says that if that's the best the man can do, then so be it. Since the master must already know his number, now he'll be waiting for his call and hopes he won't be late this time. Woojin walks out and slams the door. Sun Tae-won kneels on the ground and apologizes to the master. He didn't know the boy would be such a rude bastard. The master says he seems like an interesting person, and smiling says it's good to have someone ambitious like that with them, especially considering the metaphor he used. There need to be more tools in the guild, not people. Sun Tae-won worries about the 11 dungeons. The master says that, as Sun Tae-won mentioned, the boy is strong and smart, but if he can't do his job, then they will make him suffer the worst death possible. Finally, the master asks for 11 dungeons to be sent to him the next day along with some support. Sun Tae-won agrees. Smiling, the master says he wants to see how sharp that tool really is. Blackstone says Woojin mentioned 40 dungeons at the start and asks what his purpose was with that. The boy says it was obvious they'd lower the number, so he had to aim high. Nervously, the sword says that sometimes he can't tell who the villain really is. He's curious to see everyone's faces when Woojin betrays them. The boy says the sword will see that soon. Then he calls out to Moon Juriang, who responds quickly. Woojin asks if he found Jong Hyun-woon's base. There should be documents reporting on the Tribone Guild. He must find them. Putting on a glove, Moon Juriang says he will find them. The next day, in a rank 2 dungeon, Woojin says he didn't think they'd get all those dungeons in one day, and comments that he liked how fast they were. Blackstone says there's a man just ahead, and he looks like the one they met before in a dungeon, Hong In-soo, the guy who was nice but intrusive. Woojin wonders why Hong In-soo is there. He looks strange. Blackstone says the evil pyramid scheme probably got him. He seems nice and sincere. The world doesn't seem to care about good people. Woojin gets furious at those bastards. Blackstone draws his attention and says now is not the time. They can't destroy what they're building. If he does something now, the whole plan will be ruined. He needs to act dumb and stay strong. Someone calls out for Kim Ji-hun. It's Sun Tae-won, who says he came to guide him and asks if he liked the dungeon. The boy seems confused. Then Sun Tae-won says he called as many ants as he could. He shouts for everyone to spread out and bring the monsters. Turning to Woojin, he says those people will bring the monsters and are called ants. Sun Tae-won says they'll collect the mana stones too, so Woojin's only focus will be the fight. The boy asks if his master told him to do this. The man smiles nervously and says his master asked him to give Woojin the best treatment. Blackstone comments that some Taewong says that, but the reason must be something else. Woojin says yes, he must want to keep an eye on him. Then the boy thinks that it's a relief to have him watching. That way he won't be influenced if he looks at him, and thinks he'll destroy Jang Kyung-woon as soon as possible. Woojin fights in the dungeon. Then he rests his sword on the ground after finishing he completed the 20 dungeons. The boy sits on the ground. The system reports that he completed the mission. Blackstone says he managed to finish the remaining dungeons in 11 days. That's an insane speed. He received 700 points and a title as someone who experienced real battles. All stats increased by 1. Woojin comments that this mission was very useful, but it was very hard watching other people risk their lives just because of him, especially Hong In-soo. But now it's time. He opens the status window. He is 16 years old, rank 3. His Imperial Black Bullet has risen to rank 2. His stats have increased significantly, and he has 1,500 points. Blackstone says Jang Kyung-woon is rank 5 and Sun Taewong is rank 4, so he should use the points he already has before fighting them. He will raise his swordsman physique and mana to the intermediate level. Blackstone says that's a good idea since he fights with sword energy. The system announces that Woojin's body will change to match the new rank. The boy sits calmly. Blackstone is glad he's finally at the intermediate rank and says that it's better this way. The boy feels stronger and didn't feel any pain during the transformation. Sun Taewong approaches and says that Ji-hun did a good job. The boy thanks him. The man says he was happy to help and asks if Woojin has somewhere to go now. Woojin says now they should go see the person he misses so much. He goes to meet Master Jang Kyung-woon, who says he hasn't seen him in a long time. Woojin says he was able to take the dungeons easily thanks to the master. Jang mocks him for speaking so formally now. Then Woojin says he can't speak casually about something he's fought for his whole life. Jang laughs and says he's good with people. Seriously, Woojin asks if he can ask something. Jang Kyung-woon says they're family now, so he can. He wants to know how Hong In-soo ended up in the guild. The man looks confused and asks who that is. Some Taewon explains that it's the man he called stupid who tried to help his companion escape. Jang Kyung-woon starts laughing again and says he's an idiot bastard who tried to save his companion and was automatically forced to become a member of the guild. And so was his daughter. Woojin is shocked. Then Jang continues, saying that he trembled when the man threatened him using his daughter, and she also joined the guild trying to save her father. They're stupid because they think they can escape quickly by working together. That guild only got where it is thanks to that kind of bastard. Now he must do something for Jang Kyung-woon. Eliminate Lee Yang-yeon from the association's search team. Woojin picks up his phone and the master is confused. Then he asks what the boy is doing at that moment. Woojin places the phone on the table and Jung asks who he's calling. Moon Ju-young's voice asks if the young master called him. Woojin asks if he found it. Then the man says yes, he found all the guild's documents in Jang Kyung-woon's secret space. He also grabbed the records of the bribes with the association. Woojin asks what they can do with that. Moon Ju-young says he can do whatever he wants and Woojin thanks him for the work. Sun Taewong and Jang Kyung-woon are furious. The master asks who the boy is and how he did that. Woojin summons the gentle knight. He moves quickly. The two men are sent flying. They spit blood when they hit the wall. Woojin calls them bastard trash and asks how it feels to be hit from behind. Jang Kyung-woon calls Woojin a bastard. Blackstone tells the boy to focus. The ambush was effective, but the master is still alive. Woojin agrees. Jung lifts a piece of the wall that's on top of him and asks, gasping, who Woojin is. Furious, he asks if the boy is from the association, if Lee Yang-yeon sent him. Mocking, Woojin says he has no way of knowing. Standing up, Jang Kyung-woon says that doesn't matter because he'll tear him to pieces. The man charges at the boy, but he calls upon the Black Wind. The system announces that Rasadum's aura has been activated. Jung is startled. Then Woojin thinks of a vertical slash using enchantment and strength. Jung becomes desperate when he's hit by the slash. He writhes in pain. Then he screams. Woojin steadies himself after the blow. Blackstone comments that he must have internal injuries since he forced his aura. Woojin is doing well, and this is his chance to win. The sword says the bastard is planning to attack him using his aura density. He knows how strong he is. Blackstone tells Woojin to use the soft sword to block or break him with a strong strike. The boy says it's too late now, and there's only one way out. Jang Hyun-woon charges forward screaming that he will annihilate Woojin, but the boy charges too. The strike causes an explosion. The man raises his sword. Blackstone shouts for Woojin to go low. The system activates the Imperial Black Bullet. Woojin launches it. The man tries to defend, but he's hit. His arm disintegrates and his sword shatters. The place where they are explodes. Jung falls to the ground on his knees, groaning in pain. Woojin approaches and he tells the boy to wait. Then he asks what the boy wants. Woojin takes off his mask and stares at the man. Then he says that he despises his family very much, but there is one motto from it that he likes. Jang Hyun-woon is shocked that he's just a child. Woojin says that one must never show any commitment to the enemy, even in the face of death. Jung says that's the motto of the Beak family of the Divine Sword. The boy draws his sword, saying he couldn't bear to see Jung relax in a prison cell. The man screams. The system reports that the boy completed the surprise mission. He received 700 points and 2 surprise rewards. Woojin is relieved that all the effort was worth it. He is weak because he used too much aura. Blackstone mocks him for being tired after just one round of fighting, saying he can't even tell if he's weak or strong. Woojin comments that he contacted Moon Ju-young, so he should arrive soon. He'll probably wake up in the recovery room again. The boy wakes up. Moon Ju-young asks if he's awake, and Jeon Junhyuk seems relieved that the boy has regained consciousness. Moon Ju-young yells that Woojin needs to be more careful. He also fainted in the Legion district last time. The boy says he knew that would happen. But something catches his attention. There's another man there. Woojin asks who he is. He introduces himself as Lee Youngyeon. He approaches and says he's there to thank the boy. Woojin is confused. The man says he was starting investigations because he had heard of criminal activities connected to the Tribone Guild, and he was having a hard time with the investigation. They had connections with people in the association too, so there were disruptions because of that, but Woojin ended all of it alone. Lee Youngyeon continues, saying that he not only got rid of the criminals, but also obtained documents that helped a lot. Thanks to his help, over 400 ability users are free from the Tribone Guild. They are now able to go after all the victims thanks to that document. All the victims' contracts were annulled, and they received compensation for everything. Woojin smiles. Hong Yim-soo and his daughter are also free. The man's daughter approaches him while he cries. Hong Yim-soo sees Era, who is also emotional. Moon Jueang says that everyone is talking about that guild and about Woojin. John Junhyuk says it makes sense since he defeated a rank 5 at 16 years old. Lee Youngyeon says that besides that, thanks to Woojin's sense of justice, he fought alone until the end and has earned his respect. The boy is shocked that everyone knows about it. Even his father must know. Woojin reflects as someone says he didn't just take care of 2 rank 4 criminals, but also a rank 5. He's incredible. The boy is shocked, and Lee says that Jong Kyung-woon was a pseudonym. He checked later in their database. He will transfer the rewards for the criminal to the boy soon. The guards say they will also take their leave and ask the boy to take care and rest. Woojin thanks them. Everyone leaves the room. The system reports that he completed the surprise mission. Woojin says it was all worth the effort, and Blackstone asks him to read what's next. The system says he touched and shocked a lot of people, so he received 10,000 sword rewards as a bonus. Blackstone is completely shocked, wondering if that's really possible. Woojin says he was just focused on the surprise mission, but the extra reward is really cool. The system asks him to choose a card for his secret rewards. Blackstone tells him to pick any. Woojin picks one. The reward is a stone. Blackstone celebrates. The boy is disappointed with the stone, but the sword is very happy because he got a bad card. After all, a lucky guy like him needs to fail at least once. Then Woojin picks the second card. Smiling, Blackstone says you might get a rare one if he's lucky, but it's hard to get something good like that. He received the 4-element spiritual stone divided into islands of fire, water, air, and earth. It increases sensitivity and resistance. Woojin comments that he received 2 rewards related to attributes. He should find a spiritualist to take a look. Blackstone says he'll be able to improve an attribute to the intermediate rank if he uses that stone, and he'll also get stronger. Woojin says he'll use it right now. Then he crushes the stone with his hand, thus consuming the power of the 4-element spiritual stone. His resistance and sensitivity increase by 5. Blackstone says the boy is a success. Woojin comments that there's still one more reward. Then he opens the 10,000 swords reward and 2 cards appear in front of him. The sword asks which one he will choose and says both are unique, so whichever he picks will be good. Woojin selects one. A gate of the sword path has been opened. Blackstone is shocked. The system reports that the horizontal slash has been mastered, and Woojin begins to feel something. He complains of a headache. Blackstone says it's the system checking his abilities and tells the boy to hang in there just a bit longer. The system announces that the gates of the 10,000 swords are opening. The 4th gate is the lightning sword. He receives his sword containing forms of delight and lightning. Woojin is shocked that the sword path is connected to his mind. Blackstone says he's never seen anyone receive a sword path as a reward. Angrily, Blackstone yells for Woojin to bow to the system. Mocking, the boy asks in which direction he should bow. In the Patriarch's hall, he tells Woojin that the boy seems fully recovered. On his knees, the boy says yes, and the Patriarch continues, saying the boy did something amusing in recent days. No guild or family has a 16-year-old who managed to defeat someone of rank 5. He didn't just destroy one guild, but several at once. Seriously, Woojin says he's a member of the Beak family of the Divine Sword. To wrong him is to wrong his whole family. He just felt it was his duty to do that. The old man replies that that's amazing. The boy is shocked. He's never heard his father use that word. Then the Patriarch says there are people who doubt he defeated a rank 5, especially those who are his rivals. Woojin says they're talking nonsense. Seriously, the old man begins to say that to him it's a disgrace to hear such things, so he's going to assign something to the boy. He must make them shut their mouths. The boy is confused. Then the Patriarch says there's a rank 3 dungeon that's never been seen before and has just been discovered, which means there are new monsters in it. Its mana is around rank 4, so there should be a boss inside as well. He'll spread a rumor that he's going to be part of a raid on that dungeon. Rumors about Woojin are spreading quickly. If there are rumors that he'll raid that dungeon, the bastards who want to rival him will want to join in. Woojin asks if the Patriarch wants him to defeat all the monsters in the dungeon, and the old man confirms, saying there is no information about it, and everyone will be on equal footing. The boy must face everyone and prove that no one can rival the Beak family. Blackstone says the Patriarch is crazy for sending his son from the hospital straight to a dungeon. The Patriarch says he won't allow the boy to take anyone to help him, but he will allow him to take equipment up to rank 5. Blackstone comments that then he'll only be able to take Mu Jueang, and Woojin thinks this will be harder than the fake mission Sienna gave him. Woojin asks what happens if he fails or loses his life in the dungeon, and the Patriarch says that will be the end. There's no reason to pity a failure. Blackstone is shocked that the old man says that about his own son. Woojin says he needs to defeat him, and the sword is confused. Then Woojin tells Blackstone that he's going to defeat the Patriarch. If he remains alive, he'll continue as Patriarch. Then he tells his father he accepts the mission and will bring the boss's head. The Patriarch says he'll then give his guard the mission details. Woojin leaves, determined to change that rotten family. The Patriarch smiles and wonders what will happen if Woojin dies. He thinks that would be a shame. Jeokyeon opens her brother's door all at once. The boy complains, saying she should at least knock before entering, but the girl says that's not important. There are rumors rumors about the Beak family of the Divine Sword, the brother asks if she's talking about the youngest. Then says he knows the rumors he destroyed a guild and killed a rank 5 criminal. Jianhua says there's another rumor. It seems he's going to the newly discovered rank 3 dungeon. The brother is shocked. Seriously, Jianhua says she's going too, no matter what happens. Moon Juan is frightened and asks what that is, a rank 3 dungeon with no recorded data and with a boss all alone. Wujin smiles and says that's nothing, asking the man to give him the paper with the mission info, but Juan is worried about the boy. The boy says it's alright and he's already fully recovered. Moon Juan takes a deep breath. Then he says that, as the boy knows, that is a newly discovered rank 3 dungeon, and they don't know what kind of monster is inside. Blackstone looks at the paper and asks what Wujin thinks of it and if he recognizes that dungeon from his past life. The boy says yes. The sword gets excited and says then he has information about the place and might have an advantage. Wujin comments that the information is incomplete nonetheless. Blackstone is confused and Wujin says that dungeon collapsed. Its monsters escaped due to a failed raid. Then the sword asks if it wouldn't still be useful to have some early information about the place. Wujin says at least he can prepare. Jian Junhyo calls for him. The guard says that only Wujin and Moon Juan were authorized to go to the dungeon and asks if that's okay. Calmly, the boy says it's all fine. Writing on a piece of paper, he says they need to move, and asks Jian Junhyo to retrieve the equipment listed on the paper from the warehouse. If there's a problem, just say it's an order from the patriarch. Whatever he can't find, he should buy. Jian Junhyo asks, astonished, what those things are. Wujin replies that they're the necessary items to clear that dungeon. The next day, at the dungeon entrance, Wujin and Moon meet. The boy asks Moon what he told the man who visited him in the hospital. The guard responds that he just told him the truth. Then Moon Juan says he told him that the boy walked with a kind heart to save the victims and fought them alone. The most important thing is that he walked to save people without asking for anything in return. That's what it means to have a kind heart. Wujin gets nervous and says that's exactly what happened. Blackstone teases him and says the boy only did it because of a mission. Seriously, Moon says again that he only told Lee the truth, but it seems many people are admiring Wujin now. Of course, there are some who don't believe the story. The boy is surprised. Behind them is a group of people wondering if that's Beak Wujin and saying he doesn't look intimidating at all. Blackstone comments that the boy is popular, and he says he got the 10,000 swords reward thanks to Moon Juan, so it worked out well in the end. Wujin comments that his guard's personality changed. He was pretty quiet when they first met. The man replies that the Beak family of the Divine Sword is a strong guild, but also cold and cruel. An organization like that prioritizes strength over humanity. That's what people think. Wujin agrees. Then the man says he wants to change that, but it's not something someone like him can do. That's why he gave up on everything and just did the job he was assigned when he was designated to Wujin. The patriarch told him to protect and report everything he saw and heard. Moon Juan thought about Wujin being the boy who had just gained aura and that there was no point in serving someone from that family. The man adds that he thought the boy was a fraud at first. But when Sejinwoo ambushed everyone and he asked Moon Juan to protect the people until they were safe. In that moment, the man said he would take care of it. And when Siona sent him on that meaningless mission, he genuinely considered the others. It's reckless to say this, but others in that family treat their guards and swordsmen like objects. Either way, he treats Jian Junhyuk and Moon as equals. Wujin thinks there's no special reason for doing that. He dealt his whole life with the worst treatment and the most offensive insults, so he wants people to be treated well. The man remembers when Wujin told him about the mask. When he showed him his secret, he promised himself he would serve him forever. And when he said he would save people without receiving anything in return, he decided to devote his life to Wujin's, because to him, pretending has no meaning. There stands someone who truly wants to change the Beak family of the Divine Sword, someone with a goal similar to Wujin's. Smiling, the boy says he'll do it. The man is confused, and Wujin says he hates that family too. So if he's going to change it, then it will be a place where he is treated as a person instead of a sword. Wujin will make everyone see that humanity is more important than skills. Moon Juang smiles, then kneels before the boy and says he's with him. Wujin says now they need to focus on the job they have to do. The man agrees. Someone calls for them. It's Jianhua. Moon is shocked and Wujin wonders what that girl is doing there. The girl starts saying something. Wujin asks if they should call her Jianhua or Park at that moment, and she replies that she has always been Jianhua, and the guy laughs. She yells that she sacrificed her beauty sleep to train with him, and the guy doesn't even care. Wujin is confused. Then she leaves grumpy, shouting that whatever, she only talked to him because he had a familiar face, but she'll make him regret it. Seriously, she says they'll see who's going to win. Wujin says he doesn't see an opponent there and asks who's going to beat who. Jianhua gets even angrier and Wujin laughs. Blackstone asks what's wrong with the guy and comments that he could be nice sometimes. Wujin says this is fun, but she does seem to be getting stronger. The sword says not as much as him, but she is indeed almost at rank 4. Wujin acknowledges that's impressive. Blackstone says he sees potential in others too. Moon Juang comments that he has something to say before they go in. That hunk is Song Jihan. From the Gate of Light, he decided to go when he found out Wujin would be there. The other is Seo Jinwon from the Phoenix Guild. In that mission, guards can't interfere no matter what happens in the dungeon, so it's a competition between kids and their families. The dungeon opens and someone tells them to go in. Everyone moves forward into the portal. The kids hurry in as if they were racing. Wujin says they should go in too. Moon Juang asks if they're already late since everyone's already gone, and Wujin seems calm and says it's fine. The sky is purple and someone asks what that is. Another asks if they're in the right place. It doesn't look like a dungeon, it's a castle. Woojin thinks he already knows what kind of dungeon that is. Blackstone asks what it's like, and Woojin says it's just as he expected. It's a dungeon in the shape of a castle. The entrance seems to be divided into several. There's one to the north, west, east, and south. On that side, they can only see the entrances to the east, west, and south. The man says they'll enter through the north entrance and tells his guard to get ready. Then he calls the son of the Beak family, Woojin, and says he'll make a suggestion since everyone's there. The person who defeats the dungeon boss gets the weapons from the others. The others are confused. The man says they should aim high, since they're there to compare themselves. So maybe the one who defeats the boss should take everything from the others. One of them says he'd have to stop being a skill user if he refuses that, so he accepts. Another agrees. He asks if Juk will accept too. She says it's fine. Then the man says he supposes Woojin will accept too. The guy agrees. He's satisfied. Then he gets ready to go in and says since everyone decided to accept, he hopes no one changes their mind later. The members of the Phoenix Guild decide to go in through the East Gate and the Hero Guild through the West. Jiaqianhua says only the South Gate is left, so they should go through it. Her guard agrees. She starts to move forward. Then she asks Woojin if he's not going in. The guy says he'll take a look before going in seriously. She says she knows he's strong, but he'll get hurt soon if he keeps being so arrogant. Everyone there is from famous and strong guilds. Woojin asks if she's worried about him, and the girl stammers saying no. Then she yells that she'll be the one to beat him, so he can't let anyone else take him down before that. She walks off, telling Woojin to stop being so annoying. Smiling, he calls out to Jiaqianhua. The girl stops, gently. He tells her to be careful. She wonders if he's worried about her. That arrogant little bastard is worried. Shy, she tells him to be careful too. Moon Juliang comments that everyone's already gone in and only they're left outside. Then he asks if it's okay for them to join that bet, and Woojin says he's ready to take everyone's weapons. Blackstone notes that the guy is pretty confident. He replies that he's not going to let the others win that bet. Moon Juliang says they should go into the dungeon too, and asks which way the guy wants to enter. Woojin points upward. It's a window. Moon Juliang asks why he doesn't want to pick a gate. Woojin replies that a member of the Beak family doesn't follow others' footsteps. He needs to make his own path. They enter the dungeon. The guard comments that it looked like a hallway from the outside, but inside it feels like a room. This is a dungeon with bizarre effects. Blackstone asks if the guy knew about that too, and Woojin says yes. If you've entered the castle dungeon through the window, you'll be teleported to a random location. If you're lucky, you might come face to face with the boss. If not, you'll end up on a lower floor. Blackstone is shocked by the guy's luck. Woojin comments that it looks like they didn't find the boss. It must be somewhere in the middle. They can't hear any monsters or people. Moon Juliang starts talking about the dungeon's bizarre effects. Woojin says they should use that to their advantage. The man agrees. Then he takes out a crystal ball and says he'll use the smoke miasmor. He starts releasing his magic and asks Woojin to wait for the smoke to come out and show the path they should follow. Once the smoke spreads completely, they'll have a map of the place. Moon Juliang asks if Woojin knew they would be in a labyrinth, and Woojin comments that this dungeon is new and he just considered all possible scenarios. The man is impressed and says the guy is amazing. Blackstone says it's funny how he pretends to be smart to trick others. The smoke reading is complete. Now they have a map of the place. Woojin comments that they should finish this as fast as possible. Someone slams the wall angrily. The man is furious because he's been walking in circles. This is a labyrinth dungeon and the monsters are annoying gargoyles. He can't tell the statues from the real monsters. The man orders his subordinates to move forward and be prepared. They are in front of several gargoyles and say all of them seem like statues. Furious, he punches the wall and says they're wasting too much time because of those bastards. Then he thinks he needs to stay calm. He's too stressed from the labyrinth and the gargoyles. He remembers he was the first to enter the dungeon. Woojin talks to Moon Juliang and asks if that's the right way. The man says it seems like it is. No one will find the boss before them. That's the bastard boss of the dungeon, the flaming gargoyle. Moon Juliang says they won't be able to figure out the boss's weakness, so they have to take it easy. A few moments earlier, a gargoyle growled. It lunged at Woojin and Moon Juliang from behind. The guard yells that he'll take care of it, but Woojin stops him and says the man should stay behind him. He needs to go through that trial alone in one strike. Woojin finishes the gargoyle. Moon Juliang says that wasn't just a threat, but it's hard to deal with. Its skin also seems too tough to cut. Blackstone asks if Woojin has a strategy for the future, and the boy confirms. The boy says he thought of something while cutting the gargoyle and asks Moon to give him a healing potion. The man is confused. Woojin asks if potions like that are made like holy water, and Moon Juliang confirms. Then the guy says that when he cut the gargoyle, he saw black particles flying. He pours the potion on his sword. Moon Juliang looks shocked. Woojin comments that black particles usually mean it's evil, and evil is weaker against holy attacks if he strikes with his sword after applying the recovery potion. The power of the holy water will work. Woojin says that was just a random thought, and Blackstone comments that it probably was the key and that he's a bastard. Moon Juliang says that in the end, they were the last to set off, but they have the upper hand against the monsters. Woojin comments that the others don't have what it takes to deal with the gargoyles. Blackstone gets angry and says he wants to see Woojin kneel later in thanks, but the guy says that'll never happen. Even so, he wonders if the others are doing things right, and Blackstone asks if he's referring to the girl. Jiaqianhua is probably doing a great job in her own way. Her guard approaches, then says that this dungeon is really dangerous and says he'll take the lead from now on because it will be too hard for her to handle the monsters. But Jikyama says that if he does that, everything will be lost. She doesn't mind being late, she just wants to fight her way. Besides, she came here to see how strong Beak Woojin has become. She doesn't want to enter the dungeon carelessly. The girl drops a gargoyle's head on the ground. She looks back and wonders where the guy is and if he got lost in the dungeon. The guard asks if she's waiting for Beak Woojin. Nervously, she replies no and that she wouldn't wait for such a rude bastard. Then Jikyama says she's just worried about being attacked from behind, so she looks back to be careful. She gets nervous and yells that it's the truth. Moon Juyang says that he and the master need to be ready. They are in front of the flaming gargoyle and the guard says it seems to have recognized them as enemies. The gargoyle stares at them. Woojin says he's going to finish it and tells Moon Juyang not to get involved. The man asks the boy to be careful because the gargoyle seems to have special abilities. Blackstone comments that flaming gargoyles are different when using their claws. They can combust. Woojin thinks that must hurt. The most important thing is its learning ability. Attacks it has already seen won't work, so it needs to be taken down in one go. Woojin gets ready with his sword. The system activates his Razadum Aura Black Wind. The gargoyle starts moving more slowly. Woojin stares at it, and it looks back. Then one charges at the other. Woojin prepares to swing the sword. Then he launches a horizontal slash. Blackstone yells at the boy to focus his aura on his leg and tells him to release the power like an explosion, and then fly. The gargoyle starts catching fire. Woojin screams from the heat and Blackstone tells him to stay calm. This is the best opportunity to take down that boss. Woojin flies through the flames toward the monster. The sword yells for him to strike when the gargoyle opens its mouth. Woojin grabs his sword and the system charges it with lightning and speed. It starts being surrounded by aura and the lightning drop is activated. The boy strikes the boss. He charges rapidly toward the creature, which is hit directly, then loses its head. Woojin falls to the ground, glorious. Blackstone says that was perfect. The boy comments that it's rare for him to praise instead of criticize. Angrily, Blackstone says he just hates the fact that Woojin is always so lucky. Moon Juyang runs over worried. The boy says the combat uniform is fine even after the fire. Moon Juyang says the dungeon is shaking, so it'll probably collapse. Woojin says the labyrinth is being destroyed and it'll be easy to get out. Blackstone seems worried. A group tired and angry has just arrived where Woojin was. Woojin stares at them, then tells Moon Juyang and himself to leave. The man agrees and says he already got all the mana stones. The group is outraged that kid won the bet and left them there anyway. One of them comments that betting their weapons was a ridiculous idea after all. Another says he's glad the kid has business ethics. They all leave the dungeon. Woojin says he's there to collect their weapons. Others who are there and didn't bet look confused. Jiakyanwei is shocked that the boy won the bet. The bet was to win the weapons if he took down the boss first. One of them says he thought they were going to pretend they didn't make that bet. Another starts to agree, and a third says he didn't say anything about defeating the boss. Smiling, Woojin starts to say something. He says he didn't want to handle everything alone, that's why he collected everything as soon as possible. One of the people watching is shocked that Woojin defeated the boss even though he's the youngest. So the rumors about him taking down high-ranked criminals must be true. Jiakyanwei thinks that's exactly what she already thought. She was afraid he'd be defeated in that dungeon. Her guard asks if they were expecting Woojin to win and says that's a good thing, since Woojin lived up to their expectations. The girl gets furious and says that's not true. Woojin tells the men that they shouldn't go back on the bet, since they're from famous guilds, so they should hand over their weapons. One of the men throws his sword and tells the boy to go to hell. The others also get angry. They all hand over their weapons. Woojin smiles and thanks them. Blackstone yawns. Moon Juyang asks excitedly what the boy will do with those weapons, and Woojin says he plans to auction them. The guard is shocked. Then Woojin says he'll sell them on the black market. Moon Juyang is startled and says his relationship with the guilds will be ruined if he does that. The boy comments that it's already ruined and questions if those guilds are even friends. Jiakyanwei comments that she agrees with that. Then she asks how he got the boss since he was the last to enter. Woojin says that information about new dungeons is valuable. Putting her hand on her face, Jiakyanwei agrees and says she was just joking. Woojin takes the smoke miasmor and says he used that and will tell her the rest in the future. Jiakyanwei is shocked. Smiling, he says that way she can help him. The girl gets nervous and Woojin greets her. Then she smiles. Woojin says she will be a great help and the girl agrees. In the Patriarch's hall, Woojin says he completed the mission he was given. The Patriarch says he already heard from Moon Juyang. His days are never boring thanks to the boy. Blackstone says something there feels different, and the boy says the old man must be happy because he's improving the divine family's reputation and he loves to show off. He's changed a lot recently. The whole hall has changed. The old man says that the weapons he got are of no use to him and asks what the boy wants to do with them. Woojin replies that he will auction them. The Patriarch is shocked and laughs, asking if the boy is really going to step on the egos of the other families like that. Woojin says he'll do worse. They deserted for looking down on the Beak family and thinking they're better than them. The Patriarch starts laughing out loud. Then he says that since Woojin completed the mission well, he will also give him a mission and asks if there's something the boy wants. The boy says he wants Beak Sina's sword hall. Then the old man is shocked. Blackstone asks what a sword hall is, and the boy says it's a personal training place. The equipment there is much better than in the public hall. The patriarch asks if Woojin wants to steal from Sienna. Woojin says it's not in use right now, so there's no reason not to take it for himself. Blackstone says that sword hall is cool, but there's another reason Woojin wants it. The boy says that having a sword hall of your own means being recognized as someone with the family's blood. Losing it means you're incapable of protecting what's yours. That's a great shame. Blackstone notes that the boy wants to provoke his sister. He's starting to propose a fight. The patriarch says he'll allow it. Sword Hall 70 is his now. Woojin thanks him. Then the old man dismisses the boy. He stays there in the hall, thinking to himself that taking his sister's sword hall is bold. It seems the decision about a successor is inevitable and will happen soon. Woojin is startled by something. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel.